Could the translators do a quick 10 count, first on English, then on French? Thank you.
Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. We are going to start in 1 minute. We're going to start in 1 minute. Thank you. Merci.
Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. And as we begin our meeting today, and on behalf of Ottawa City Council, I wish to acknowledge that Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The City of Ottawa honors the peoples and land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation and honors all First Nations, Inuit and Métis peoples, and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Je veux souhaiter une bonne fête de la Saint-Jean-Baptiste.
I would like to mention that this is St. John Baptist Day for our French-speaking resident. Saint Jean Baptiste is a big feast for Quebecers, and French-speaking resident contributes to the liveliness of our city.
Please stand for a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. Merci. I'll ask you to remain standing, and I will invite Councillor Johnson to introduce the performers of our national anthem this morning. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So welcome everyone to City Council today. We are very excited to welcome the Bold Voices Choir, founded and directed by Lindsay Bolden. The Bold Voices is an upper voices choir that sings music exclusively by Black composers. They perform 2 concerts a year in the Ottawa South area, but we most recently had them as performers at the Copeland Park Community Fun Day, and so I'm very pleased to introduce them to you today. Thank you.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you again to Bold Voices for performing the national anthem this morning. Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for Good morning once again, everyone. I want to take a moment now to recognize June as Seniors Month in Ottawa. And it's great to be joined by so many members of the community for this proclamation. I want to invite my colleagues, Councillor Kavanagh and Councillor Hubley, to join me. Our council co-liaisons for older adults, thank you both for serving in those roles. Also want to invite Clara Frere, General Manager of Community and Social Services, to join me. And I would like to say welcome to representatives of the Older Adult Plan Roundtable who are with us this morning. Great to see all of you. To all the seniors who are joining us today, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the lives you have built here, for the families you have raised, for the businesses and organizations that you have helped create, and for the countless hours you have spent contributing to our community. Nous sommes profondément reconnaissants.
We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for everything that you've done and what you keep on doing for our communities.
It's more important than ever that Ottawa is a place where people can age with dignity, independence, and a strong sense of belonging. I'm proud that Council continues to make this work a priority, and again, I want to thank my colleagues, Alan and Teresa, for their hard work, as well as the team in Clara's department. Last year, we approved a renewed older adult plan with a clear vision, creating a supportive community where everyone has the opportunity to age with choices, with dignity, and with respect. I want to thank city staff, the members of the Older Adult Plan Roundtable, our community partners, and especially the older adults who have shared their experiences and ideas, all of which has helped to shape the plan. Merci pour tout ce que vous avez.
Thank you so much for all of your contribution, to the City of Ottawa.
I invite the members of the Older Adult Plan Roundtable to join us now for a special proclamation. If you'd like to come forward, please. Hmm? Yes. All right. There's almost as many people here up here now as there are in the audience. That's great. Okay, you ready? Whereas Canadian demographics indicate that older adults are one of the fastest growing population groups in our communities. And whereas according to the 2021 census from Statistics Canada, 172,150 older adults aged 65 and older reside in the City of Ottawa, making up 16.9% of the total Ottawa population. And it's expected that by the year 2031, more than 1 in 5 residents living in Ottawa will be over the age of 65. Whereas the City of Ottawa has benefited from the many tireless hours of volunteer work and leadership generously donated by local older adults. And whereas Council approved the renewed Older Adult Plan in November 2025, which is guided by a vision of making Ottawa a supportive community where everyone can age with choice and dignity, and is supported by a collaborative governance structure designed to create lasting, meaningful impact for older adults. And whereas the establishment of the Older Adult Plan Roundtable is central to achieving this vision, bringing together city departments, community agencies, and older adults from diverse communities to collectively advance and sustain this work for years to come. Therefore, I, Mark Sutcliffe, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, do hereby proclaim June 2026 Seniors Month in Ottawa. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Merci. Who wants to take this? I think you should.
Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again to our leaders for all of their great work. And I will now ask for the roll call, please.
Councillor Luloff,
Bon matin.
Councillor Dudas,
Ici.
Councillor Hill,
Present.
Councillor Curry,
Here.
Councillor Kelly, Councillor Gower,
Here.
Councillor Kavanaugh,
Present.
Councillor Johnson,
Here.
Councillor Devine,
Bonjour.
Councillor Bradley,
Here.
Councillor Tierney,
Present.
Conseillère Plante,
Allô.
Councillor King,
Here.
Councillor Troster, Councillor Leeper,
Good morning. Here.
Councillor Brockington,
Here.
Councillor Menard,
Here.
Councillor Carr,
Here.
Councillor Kitts,
Here.
Councillor Skalski,
Here.
Councillor Brown,
Here.
Conseiller Desroches, Councillor Hubley, Councillor Lowe,
Here.
Mr. Mayor,
Here.
we have quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Confirmation of minutes from the City Council meeting of June 10th. Are those carried? Are there any declarations of interest? I'll note the communications on the agenda, and I believe that Councillor Curry has a motion to lift item 8.3.2. Councillor Curry, if you'd like to make that motion. Do you have it?
Sorry. Be it resolved that the communications listed as item 8.3.2 on the agenda, memo from the city solicitor, Canada Lakes Golf Course Lands Development, follow-up, be lifted for discussion pursuant to subsections 1(2) and 39(3) of the procedure bylaw.
Is that carried? All right, so we will hold that and we'll come back to it after we do the two annual reports that we're doing. I will note that Councillors Troster and Desroches advised they would be absent. Motion to introduce reports. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. That the report from the Hydro Ottawa Holding Inc. entitled Hydro Ottawa Holding Inc. 2025 Annual Report, the Audit Committee Report 18, Built Heritage Committee Report 32A, Joint Environment Climate Change Committee and Emergency Preparedness Protective Services Committee Report 2, Emergency Preparedness Protective Services Committee Report 25, Environment Climate Change Committee Report 25, Planning and Housing Committee Report 67, and reports from the City Clerk entitled Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending June 19, 2026, and Summary of Oral and Written Public Submissions for the items subject to the planning acceleration requirements at the City Council meeting of June 10, 2026 be received and considered.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Is that carried? Say carried really fast. Yeah. All right, so we have the Hydro Ottawa annual report. We have the Byward Market District Authority annual meeting, which we will hold. From the City Clerk's Office, item 13.1 is the status update on council inquiries and motions for the period ending June 19th. Is that received? From Audit Committee, we have item 14.1, the 2025 City of Ottawa Consolidated Financial Statements. Is that carried? 14.2 is the audit of bus service planning and scheduling. Is that carried? 14.3 is the follow-up report on the review of job evaluation processes. Is that carried? 14.4 is the audit of cybersecurity critical infrastructure. Is that carried? 14.5 is the follow-up report number 2, audit of cybersecurity. Is that carried? From Built Heritage Committee, we have the heritage permit for 275 Hillcrest Road. Is that carried? So for item 15.2, the designation of 5 properties designed by James Strutt, we have a deferral motion on recommendation 4, which we can deal with quickly at this time. Councillor Brockington, if you want to introduce that deferral motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor King, whereas deferral of consideration of the designation of 915 Merivale Road will allow the opportunity for church leaders to meet with the heritage planning staff to review a number of issues. Therefore, be it resolved that recommendation 4 of the report with respect to the issuance of a notice of intention to designate 915 Merivale Road under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act be deferred, and be it further resolved that this matter be listed on an upcoming council agenda no later than the end of August 2026 after staff have had the opportunity to meet with church leaders. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Is that carried? So on the other recommendations, not including recommendation 4, is that carried?
I'd like to dissent on recommendation 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Carr?
Yeah, I need to dissent on the one of the properties as well, but I don't have the clause in front of me. One sec.
Which one is it? The Cunningham one? Yes. Okay, so Councillor Carr is dissenting on recommendation 3. Okay. Item 15.3 is the designation of 60 Fairmont Avenue under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Is that carried? 15.4, updates to Built Heritage Financial Incentive Programs. Is that carried? 15.5 is the update to the Bank Street Heritage Conservation District. Is that carried? From the Joint Committee meeting of Environment and Emergency Preparedness, we have the item 16.1, the Pilot Extreme Weather Preparedness Grant Program. Councillor Dudas has a direction to staff, which we can deal with quickly if everyone's okay with that. Councillor Dudas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the implementation and ongoing evaluation of the Extreme Weather Grant Program pilot, that staff consider and review how the program can continue to support community readiness while recognizing the different capacities of volunteer-led community organizations, including 1, reviewing storage needs identified through pilot applications to better understand and support community capacity and readiness, including the extent to which organizations are able to sustainably store and steward emergency-related supplies and equipment and to provide support where feasible. 2, tools, templates, or other supports to assist communities in developing community emergency plans in coordination with the Office of Emergency Management. And 3, training opportunities for program registrants.
Thank you, Councillor Dudas. Are staff okay with that direction?
Yes, we are, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So on the item, is that carried? From Emergency Preparedness and Protective Services, item 17.1, Councillor Brockington, I believe you wanted to hold that for some questions.
The paramedic report, yes.
Yeah, 17.1, the paramedic service report. 17.2, the licensing bylaw review and reenactment. Is that carried? 17.3 is the 911 annual report. Is that received? 17.4 is the motion from Councillor Johnson on nuisance lighting impacts. Is that carried? From Environment and Climate Change, 18.1 is the solid waste master plan update. Is that received? And 18.2 is the motion from Councillor Carr on expanding Ontario's deposit return program. Is that carried? And the bulk consent agenda, is that carried? Okay, we will move back to item 11 on the agenda, which is the Hydro Ottawa Holding Incorporated 2025 annual report. I'll invite our guests to come forward for presentation. Welcome to our board chair and our CEO. Thank you both for being here today. I'll turn it over to you for the presentation. Thanks.
Good morning. Bonjour, Monsieur le Maire Sutcliffe et Mesdames et
Thank you,
Messieurs.
Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, councillors.
Along with Bryce, representing Hydro Ottawa at this annual meeting, also in attendance from the company's leadership team are Angela Collier, our new EVP and Chief Financial Officer, Julie Lipinacci, our EVP of Customer Experience, Communications and Sustainability, and Adnan Kokar, the EVP of Energy Infrastructure Services, as well as senior management from our communications and corporate reporting teams. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillors Laura Dudas and Alan Hubley. Thank you for your service to the company during this term of council. We'd also like to thank all of councillors, all of you, your worship, for your engagement and support. Today, it's a great opportunity to reflect on how we've strengthened the partnership between Hydro Ottawa and the city over the last few years. We've worked together to ensure the electricity infrastructure that is essential to Ottawa's economic growth and development can be delivered when and where it is needed. We've also enhanced collaboration on major decarbonization initiatives like zero-emission buses, as well as emergency preparedness and response. We pride ourselves on being your trusted partner in helping to achieve your growth and sustainable energy goals. We look forward to continuing that strong engagement. Today's AGM comes at a unique moment. We know the city's experienced historic transformations and challenges. like preparing for 50% population growth over the next 25 years. These transformations and challenges are likewise mirrored in Hydro Ottawa's business environment. To help put that in perspective, we have prepared a brief video to share. Also, as you're aware, the Ontario Energy Board recently approved our new 5-year grid investment plan. We'll talk about that as well as our new 5-year business strategy, which we're excited to present today. As we always do at this AGM, we'll highlight our key results from the previous year and request you to approve appointments for members of our board and our external auditor. All relevant details are available in background materials that were provided to council members in advance. Following our prepared remarks, we'll be happy to answer questions that you might have. With that, let's hit play on the video.
At Hydro Ottawa Group, we believe it's not just about delivering energy, it's about what energy delivers. Empowering everyday moments through reliable, sustainable power and resilient connectivity. 2025 marked the culmination of 5 years of profound transformation, a chapter of past progress now powering our future. Throughout a period of historic change, we have emerged stronger, more digitally agile, and resilient. 2025 delivered major milestones across every business line. Hydro Ottawa Limited executed the largest single-year grid investment in our history, including construction of Piperville, our first lower-carbon station, which will serve as a blueprint for future low-carbon substations under development, supporting our commitment to sustainability. Portage Power is strategically expanding its renewable footprint, actively pursuing new opportunities in solar and battery storage to complement our historic hydroelectric strength. Envari Energy Solutions is turning climate goals into reality through lighting, mechanical, electrical, and advisory services. Key projects include zero-emission bus charging for OC Transpo, LED lighting for Kent Steel Park and Vimy Memorial Bridge, and solar feasibility studies for municipal facilities. EBU Networks is advancing local connectivity with light-speed fiber in the region and partnered with Ottawa Community Housing to provide free internet for tenants. Beyond infrastructure, our progress is rooted in a deeper responsibility. As a locally owned company, we are a community champion. Over the past 5 years, we have supported our neighbors through dedicated partnerships with key community organizations. Our commitment to community well-being is reflected in our support for healthcare through the CHEO Foundation, the Ottawa Hospital, and the Royal. Social services in partnership with Ottawa Community Housing, Operation Come Home, and the Capital Fair. And environmental protection alongside the Ottawa Riverkeeper, to name a few. The shift to sustainable energy is happening in real time, and we're at the forefront of this transition. Examples abound of progress at scale, yet the energy of a moment is also found in smaller, quieter steps, helping to empower the moments that matter most. From enhancing quality of life to helping building owners lower their footprint, identifying and reducing emissions across our service territory is making a sustainable lifestyle accessible. As we look ahead, the pace of change will only accelerate. With our 2026 to 2030 strategic direction, we are re-engineering how we do business, embracing artificial intelligence, massive electrification, and a bold vision for net zero operations. As our city grows and electrifies, we are embarking on our largest capital program ever, nearly doubling our grid investment to boost capacity by 25% and energizing one substation every single year. Backed by utility-scale battery storage, this epic undertaking will modernize our operations and strengthen grid resilience for a rapidly shifting world. We are transforming today's momentum into a smarter, more sustainable tomorrow, where the energy of a community beats.
That video provides some important context for much of what we'll be discussing today. So let's start with the highlights from 2025. Our core financial indicators remain positive. That said, I'll talk more in a moment about the attention we're giving to maintaining that financial strength. in the midst of historic complexities and pressures in our business environment. As the video noted, across our diversified business lines, we've got a great story to tell. System reliability remained best in class, and we delivered a record level of investment in our electricity grid last year. On the renewable generation front, our portfolio is capable of powering about 110,000 homes, or about 1/3 of our service territory. This figure is set to increase in the coming years thanks to a new project development posture that we adopted. We are the largest municipally owned generator of green energy in Ontario, and we plan on aggressively building on that legacy moving forward. We now have a formal pipeline of clean energy projects that we'll be pushing forward. This will allow us to grow and help meet the rising levels of electricity demand in Ottawa and Ontario. Our energy solutions business, Envari, had another successful year advancing local decarbonization projects like the zero emission bus project with the city and energy savings initiatives for Ottawa community housing. And meanwhile, our fiber optic solutions business, EBU, continued to make good progress in signing up customers, including some major local businesses and institutions, and building out its fiber optic network.
As always, we promise to be a company that is supporting community groups, local companies, and clients in need.
The report provides a comprehensive picture of these and other takeaways from our performance in 2025. A specific section of the report that I'll draw attention to is chapter Delivering on Our Sustainability Promise. It showcases our support for advancing the city's climate and clean energy goals, as well as our leadership in incorporating sustainability across our business practices. In addition, it complements the separate progress report we provided to Council this morning, which should be at each of your seats. In that report, we highlight specific decarbonization and electrification projects delivered for the City of Ottawa by our Energy Solutions affiliate, Envari. I'd encourage you to review the report as it highlights both citywide and ward-specific projects. As a council, you have a lot to be proud of, and you should take credit for these environmental initiatives. As a company, Hydro Ottawa plays a number of different roles. We're an essential services provider, we're a community builder, and we're a key partner of the city. But more fundamentally, though, we are a for-profit corporation. To do justice to today's forum, we want to paint a broad picture for you, our shareholder, of our financial performance and the returns from your investment in us. In short, Hydro Ottawa has been and will continue to be a sound long-term investment for the city. In the 25 years since our incorporation, we've delivered almost $950 million in value through a combination of cash dividends, debt repayment, and retained earnings. We've paid out over $413 million in dividends, which has helped fund local programs, services, and infrastructure. As an investment, we outperform the TSX. I think it's safe to say that any investor would be thrilled with this consistent, steady level of performance. We're proud of our track record and of the benefits that have accrued to you, our shareholder, and to the wider community as a result. About 6 weeks ago, the Ontario Energy Board approved Hydro Ottawa's comprehensive plan for investing in our distribution grid over the next 5 years.
After we've tabled our request in April 2025, we maintained the Council informed of what was going on. We will be happy to answer your question concerning our 5-year plan.
Today, I want to emphasize the historic significance and scale of what Hydro Ottawa is set to undertake during the 2026-2030 timeframe. We are staring down the barrel of a historic cycle of investment in the critical electricity infrastructure that powers our way of life. We are on track to almost double the amount of work that we did to strengthen and modernize the grid during the previous 5-year period, which itself was unprecedented. What's driving this need? Excuse me. As you know better than anyone else, Ottawa is growing. According to the latest data from the province, it's the fastest growing census division in Ontario. We also have a lot of infrastructure, poles, wires, meters, transformers, which was built many decades ago and has reached or exceeded their service life. Keeping the grid safe and resilient in the face of hazards like cybersecurity threats, and yes, severe weather events, is another heightened imperative. Most importantly of all, we need to keep pace with the expectations of our customers. To confirm, the OEB's approval of our 5-year plan provides the funding envelope we need to get the job done. And yes, as we've acknowledged in all of our public communications, this will mean an increase in the rates paid by customers. No one wants to see rate increases. I get it. I understand that affordability and economic uncertainty have become a very real issue for the residents of Ottawa. but I also want to be real about what we asked for and what we're getting. The average Hydro Ottawa residential customer will see an increase of $5.87 or 3.81% per month on their bill this year, 2026, with smaller increases annually thereafter. From a total bill perspective, our expectation is that it will amount to a 1.65% increase per annum over the next 5 years, below the rate of taxation. Our goal has been and remains balancing essential infrastructure upgrades with operational and cost efficiency. I've been the president and CEO of Hydro Ottawa for 15 years. When I started, the story was one of having surplus energy, with conservation, modern equipment, and technologies limiting consumption. The demand for our product was declining. That is simply no longer the case. I'll get into it in a bit, but suffice to say that the demand for our product today is unprecedented, and we need to make investments to allow our city and your community to grow and prosper. Similarly, we need to acknowledge that proactive grid investments today are more practical than trying to catch up tomorrow or paying higher emergency repair costs in the future. At the same time, I want to keep in mind some other important facts. First, even with this increase, Hydro Ottawa's distribution rate will only account for 22% of the total electricity bill. The remaining 78% covers generation costs, transmission costs, regulatory charges, and taxes, costs over which I have no control. Second, compared to several of our peers in this sector, our distribution rates remain lower. Residents of Toronto pay 30% more for their distribution. As someone who lives in the Hydro One territory area of Ottawa, my neighbors and I will continue to pay 12% more than my colleagues in downtown Ottawa. As we've mentioned at past AGMs, these pressures are being felt across the province and indeed the country, with electricity demand expected to increase by 65% in the next 25 years. On the topic of costs, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that this billion-dollar investment imperative presents unique challenges for the company. Following the historic period of investment and growth over the past 5 years, we're now facing constraints and pressures in terms of our capital and equity structure. These will magnify over the next 5 years and beyond as the need for elevated levels of grid investment persists well into the 2030s and 40s. To be clear, Hydro Ottawa is not here today requesting specific relief or action from Council on this front, but we do hope it can be the start of a conversation around potential solutions for maintaining the strength of our balance sheet as the demands of our business amplify in the years ahead. To further underscore the scale of what Hydro Ottawa is currently navigating, I want to draw your attention to an extraordinary pressure that our company is now facing and how it's forcing us to do things that we've never done before at a pace and a scale that we've never experienced before. We are currently managing the largest volume in our history of requests for grid connection from what we call large load customers. These are prospective customers who need a significant amount of electricity. Think of government, national defense, hospitals, university campuses, and yes, data centers. At present, we have more than 30 large load inquiries in our pipeline, with more emerging every month. It's no secret that there's a lot of tension these days around data centers, AI technologies, and their tremendous appetite for power. As you can see from that chart on the left-hand side, data centers represent 60% of the total large load requests on our plate. More broadly, taken together, these 34 requests represent 86% of the average system load for the last year. For every 5 of these projects, 4 of them are asking to be hooked up to the grid over the next 2 years. So let me pause and restate that again for your benefit. In the past 24 months, we have received 34 requests to connect new businesses in Ottawa that amount to effectively 86% of our current load and capacity. At our pace and trajectory, I'm comfortable predicting that by the end of this year, we will have received requests to connect that exceed the total amount of power that is used today by residents and businesses within the City of Ottawa. We are being asked to build in support in the next 2 to 3 years what has taken us the better part of 110 years to build. And to be clear, that growth is not expected to slow anytime soon. In fact, our expectations are that it will continue to scale exponentially as Ottawa grows. These are incredible figures, and they serve as concrete evidence of how we've moved well beyond a business as usual approach for our company. For the final portion of the presentation, I'm going to turn it back to Bernie.
Thank you, Bryce. For this last piece, I'll circle back to my earlier comment about our board having recently refreshed our corporate strategy. 2025 marked the 5th and final year of our 2021 to 25 strategic direction term. In line with the strategic planning mandate in our board charter, we undertook an exercise last year to update our strategy for 2026 to 30. As part of the package of materials provided today, you will receive a copy of our 2026 to 30 strategic direction. The strategy is designed to inform the city and all of our stakeholders about the most important trends, risks, and opportunities shaping our business environment and how we intend to navigate them. It's a broad landscape covering electrification, AI, distributed energy, climate change, technological transformation, cybersecurity, workforce demographics, stakeholder engagement, customer preferences, and more. The strategy is organized around 5 core objectives. 1, build the enterprise of the future. 2, secure, nurture, and deploy the talent needed for success. 3, drive profitability across all our business lines. 4, enhance our social license to operate. And 5, achieve net zero operations and enable local decarbonization. We look forward to this next exciting chapter and to the opportunities ahead for partnering with the city on realizing its vision for sustainable growth and economic development. In closing, here are the recommendations being presented to City Council as part of this AGM. These recommendations are outlined in our written report to Council with the context and rationale provided. The recommendations are to receive our audited consolidated financial statements for 2025, to receive our 2026 to 30 strategic direction, to appoint KPMG as our external auditor for 2026, to approve the recommended reappointment and appointments of directors to our board, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign a resolution on behalf of the shareholder setting out the resolutions approved by council. On behalf of the board and management of Hydro Ottawa, thank you again for this opportunity to appear today, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for all your hard work throughout the year. Councillor Curry.
Yes, thank you. I have a number of questions, but first a comment. Bryce, your senior leadership team is outstanding. Their presence in the Canada North Tech Park is so welcomed, but they're at everything. They're there talking to companies about how they can save money on energy, what options there are, what grants there are, what programs there are. It's absolutely fun. Every time I go over to a meeting, there's someone from Hydro Ottawa there working with the KNBA and the companies that are in the tech park. I honestly, I can't thank you enough. There's so much demand there, as you know, all over the city, but in that one cluster for sure. So it is super helpful. And their partnership with the KNBA, or their collaboration with the KNBA and the Ottawa Climate Action Fund, is just the perfect match. You know, there's always challenges, but it's so great to see how that is all working together. So that I wanted to thank you for. The other is the Energy Forum yesterday. The mayor and I were certainly there at the beginning, and the mayor made some important remarks, echoing everything you'd said for sure, that how important it is that we are ready. We're already in the middle of all the demands, as you say, huge demands, but that session as well, Julie opened it up as well, making some really important comments. It's so good to see. You know, we're not just sort of reacting. We are very proactive, I think, as Hydro Ottawa and as the City of Ottawa. I did want to say one thing, you know, so I am Canada North here. The demand for good cell coverage and service is it's overwhelming to us. I mean, as a city councillor, you know, I know others are getting it as well. People writing saying, you know, our service is terrible. And I know this is not us, right? But we have Hibu networks. And I know that the #1 goal is to go to companies and commercial entities, but residential customers are desperate for good cell service and for high-speed internet. And so a reason I said that I am Canada North is because we are right down the road from Canada's largest tech park, and people don't have high-speed internet. Like, that is just crazy. And so I just want to comment on Hibu networks and where you see it going, because we would love to see it move to residential.
Sure, and thank you for your comment, Councillor. as you know, being CEO is pretty easy when you stand on the shoulder of the giants I get to stand on. So I have an amazing team. I'm thankful every day I go to work and have the privilege of working with them. And the fact that you recognize that is that much better. Thank you. With respect to EBU, it's the most nascent of our businesses. Obviously, I think we may be celebrating its second birthday this year. Third, it's too young to count. We're still a ways away from offering cell phone service, Councillor, to residents. We're focused right now in Canada North in trying to sort of build out the fiber network into small, medium enterprises, and so to give them proprietary, sovereign data linkages, high-speed data connections. So that is where we are at the moment. There's no secret that we would love to grow that business, and we will continue to push, and we have an incredible team there doing yeoman's work in that regard. But I just want to make sure I manage your expectations. You're not connecting with a NEBU telephone anytime soon.
Okay, well, I just tell you, you know how I feel. I think, and you know, the fact that that really used to be Ottawa Telecom, you know, Rogers has benefited greatly from all of this, you know, brain power we used to have. I just think there's so much potential there. So, you know, you know what I think. The other is that when you look at how much demand there is, you know, 86% of what we already have is being demanded right now. There is so much potential for solar. I know it's always improving, but I've had a lot of residents ask us, when would Hydro Ottawa be looking more at that old FIT program? I know that's not up to us entirely, but that is something that residents keep asking about. So I just wonder if you have a comment on that.
Yeah, in my comments, again, thanks for the question, Councillor. In my comments, I referenced the intent to grow the generating portfolio. You know, obviously, we have the benefit of Shawjer and a number of our water assets. We do have, working with the city, have put solar on a number of buildings. We're more than happy to continue to do that. The process to procure energy at the provincial level is run by the province. The last process was challenging for us, just the nature of the parcels of land that we had to put into the bidding process. That said, the province is committed to almost annual continuous. So, excuse me. So we will be very much putting in applications for additional solar each and every year. We believe that it's reaching almost grid parity in terms of costs. It's good, solid energy. So we will be trying to grow that effort.
Okay, thank you. I think there's a lot more to be said on the FIT program, and that residents being able to generate their own energy and then feeding back to the grid, but you know, actually even making some money off of that. Like there's a lot more that we, I think, need to explore there, given the high demand. I guess the only other thing I would say is that I also want to highlight the fact that in your strategic plan, you talk about training and how important it is. You have to have a pipeline of talent to work at Hydro Ottawa. That is critical. Obviously, you can appreciate how if we don't have enough people who are actually working at Hydro Ottawa on the ground, given the demand, you know, we won't be able to move as fast as we can or we'd like to. But the same is true for the talent we need for some of the jobs. And if we have the power to power up some of these companies that are asking to be located in Canada and Ottawa, then they also need talent. They also need training. And so you enable that indirectly. And I just hope you realize that. I'm glad to see it there, because you don't just say Hydro Ottawa talent, but I took that to mean, you know, what you do actually supports all of it. And that's what will make economic development strong in the city. So I'm hopeful that that part of your strategic plan is also seen more broadly.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Look, I think we can all agree economic growth does not occur in a cave or a vacuum. So we understand our role in providing energy to the community, to making sure that we meet the demands of those requests as they're coming in, to make sure that we never say no. That's our goal. We never want to say no to anybody. So that's the intent. That's the goal. That's what we'll make happen.
And we appreciate that. I'd love that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation today. Very impressed with Hydro Ottawa for many years now. And it's quite something, Mr. Conrad, to hear you talk about the accelerated growth in the city and the demand for electricity. I think you basically said the short-term need when compared historically is quite something for us to hear today. So thank you. 99.97% reliability is hard to argue. I mean, that is an excellent statistic and impressive. One point that's been raised before, and I think I just want to piggyback on some questions that Councillor Devine raised last year, is the number of power outages that some neighborhoods faced with, including my own. Today, my power went out for the 6th time in about 3 months. The power outages are not long. They're very short, but they happen. And so one question that my residents would like me to raise today is, how do we mitigate the frequency of power outages, even though the length is short? The inconvenience of the outages is what people are concerned with. So can you just address that matter, please?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councillor. Look, if your residence or a business walks into a room and they turn on the light and it doesn't come on, then by definition we failed. And 99.7 provides zero comfort at that point in time. So it's our objective to minimize those costs, minimize those disruptions. I think statistically speaking, they are down from year over year. Last year was a bit of a bump up. We've seen some things that we hadn't seen in the previous years. We saw pole fires, a lot of cable faults. Not quite sure why or how they're happening. I think it's a reflection, quite frankly, on just the level of the infrastructure investment that's required moving forward. We need to replace that infrastructure, and that's what we're planning on doing going forward. Short answer is we do offer best-in-class reliability if you compare ourselves to Toronto Hydro, Electra, Guelph, London, etc. But again, it's small consolation. Our goal is, if there is an outage, as you said, is to restore power as quickly as possible. And again, I know I woke up this morning and saw that there was an outage, thinking, "Oh, that's great timing." But again, it was as short as could be. I can tell you categorically, Councillor, that every one of these outages is a learning opportunity for the team. They do take it back. They do dissect. They do try to understand what caused the problem, how to mitigate it. I think last year I spoke to the number of squirrels that we were having, that were the wildlife contacts. There was a strategy put in place to deal with that. Seemingly is paying off. But again, push on one, something else pops up. So I don't want to diminish the frustration, nor do I want to minimize your question, Councillor, but all we can do is continue to do the best we can and restore power as quickly as we possibly can. So,
thank you, Mr. Conrad. I appreciate that. My other question is, not sure how to frame this, but non-residential customers that are being constructed have raised concerns about the amount of time they're quoted to get hydro infrastructure installed on site. I don't know if this is a problem across the board or whether it's a very specific issue. Can you just address this? And if it is an issue, how are you directing resources to mitigate the amount of time?
Yeah, again, a very good question, Councillor, and it is a frequent topic of conversation in my office. Without meaning to pass the buck here at all, I will say it's not about our capacity to do the work or the work crews or the scheduling. It really comes down to the equipment. And the equipment is just not available in the way it used to be. Our supply chains have not recovered from COVID. So whereas we used to get a product, it would take 6 months, 9 months maximum, it's now taking the better part of 24 months. We have some items where the lead time is 48 months. Again, it's not because of anything that we do. It's simply the demand in the system. And you have to appreciate, we're not buying just for, we're not competing with anybody, Hydro One or Toronto. We're competing with the North American for some of these assets. So a transformer, you know, PG&E, which has 12 million customers in Southern California, they're buying 300 transformers where we're buying 15. And it just, that's what it's coming down to. Now we hope, and we've seen evidence to suggest that the supply chain is becoming a bit more resilient, that we are able to access things in a more timely fashion. But the criticism is genuine. It is a problem for us. Something that we're constantly trying to manage and find other sources and suppliers.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. The last question is a question I've asked you before, and that is, what keeps you up at night? What are you really concerned about looking forward that we may not perhaps be completely ready to deal with? Is there anything you want to share with today? Thank you.
Sure. Again, thank you for the question. I'll give you 3 specific answers. The first is, you know, I sit atop an organization whose employees deal with a pretty dangerous substance on a daily basis. I've been there for 15 years. We've had 2 subcontractor fatalities in that time. That's number one. I want my staff and my employees and my contractors to go home healthy to their family every night. So that's what keeps me up, A. B, we are seeing cybersecurity. We are seeing things that we have never seen before. We are just last week, London Hydro was hit with an attack that where data was breached and privacy information was disclosed. It's becoming a common, almost everyday occurrence. Nova Scotia Power was hit 12 months ago, effectively shut their system down for the better part of 7-8 months. That terrifies me. So that also keeps me up at night. And the third one, and one that I hope to have a bit more capacity to impact on, is the regulatory environment in which we exist. I've spoken it. I just explained to you the demands that we're facing. Our regulator, and then look, we're a monopoly, so I understand the importance of being regulated and the need for regulation. But our regulator needs to sort of adopt a more, they need to revert back to what they should be, which is that of an economic regulator. Balancing the needs of the utilities with customers, with ratepayers, with communities. Right now, the regulatory model, the mindset is very much a deny and defer, which is what's gotten us into some of the problems that we're faced with today, which is, so I appreciate the need to keep rates low, but when you're on the cusp of or in the midst of exponential growth and demand, they need to change their mindset. And unfortunately, the rate application process that we just went through, there are no words to describe how ineffective and brutal that process was, and what I think is a colossal waste of time and money. But I'll reserve judgment for others.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Councillor Lowe.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, Bryce. Nice to see you.
Too.
You, in your one of your answers to Councillor Brockington's questions, you had mentioned that the competition with utilities across North America is one of the challenges in procuring equipment, despite evidence suggesting that it may improve. Are our grids, so is Hydro Ottawa's grid so different from, let's say, Kingston and whatever other cities that we can't create a volume customer, so to speak, by joining our procurements for equipment? Does that already happen, I guess, or yeah? Yeah,
if you're asking in terms of sort of joint procurement of things, yeah, there's a certain element of that that's happening already, but for some of these very long lead pieces, the ones I referred to as 48 months, 4 years, it's very much a get what you get when you get it kind of routine. So it's certainly every man and woman for himself. So there's not a lot of sharing when it comes to something that you have to wait 4 years for, because we all want them and we all need them. So poles, wires, copper, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. And what I will say is, categorically, this is a great industry. In the event that if I absolutely need something to power a community up, I have the ability to reach out to a Kingston or a Toronto or Quebec, whomever, and say, hey, can can we bump your spot? Can we take that asset? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So I don't want to make it sound as though, you know, the sky is falling here at all. It's not. It's just we're all in the midst of this electrification agenda. Everybody's electrifying. Everyone is seeing the same level of demands. We're just probably further advanced on that curve.
Okay, no, that's fair. I also appreciate some of the comments made by Councillor Curry about the Hebrew networks. It's similar to what I've heard in the past as well. I think I may have asked this once about expanding it into residential, at least on the fiber optic side, because I believe Bell has stopped new installations. At least I haven't seen any of those municipal consent things come through my email. But that you know, that I feel is an opportunity. I understand that you're not quite there yet, but I'll just posit that thought. I also want to just share thanks for your team. We've had a number of those short, frequent outages in Old Barrhaven as well, the older parts of Barrhaven, where, you know, the infrastructure is probably approaching 50-ish years old. And you know, even though most of those outages are caused by branches, animals, and whatever, the ones, you know, your team does respond in a timely manner, and they provide, you know, all the information that my residents and I need. And in some cases, you've sort of gone and done the work to make sure that it doesn't happen as much. I don't think a lot of this is 100% preventable, but your team certainly has been there, and want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Bryce, for the report. And I just want to say a special thank you for your partnership with Ottawa Community Housing, not just in projects and with the foundation, but also with the Hebrew project. And just it's really, really helpful. And I know it will continue. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. We were talking earlier in our reports about extreme weather events and being prepared. I'd just like to know, what is Hydro Ottawa doing in terms of safeguards and other ways to mitigate concerns during extreme weather events?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. Just with respect to Ottawa Community Housing, it's as I've told you before, I'm a big believer that business moves at the speed of trust, and the relationship that we have with Stefan and his team at Ottawa Community Housing is literally second to none. I couldn't ask for a better partner in delivering on these projects. With respect to extreme weather events, look, we haven't had much. We've been fortunate for the past couple of years, but everyone sitting around this table can remember 2022. And the derecho events, and can remember 2023 and the ice storm and wind events. So the short answer is, what are we doing? We took the learnings. We did an after-fact report on both the ice storms and the derecho to try to figure out what went wrong and where we could fix things, where we could improve the situation. So from top to bottom, all of our infrastructure has been "quote unquote" hardened within the realm of reason. You know, Councillor Devine will ask me how much has been buried, and I'll say next to none, but that doesn't mean we haven't hardened the infrastructure. So to give you an example, our poles, if you were to go up and down Hawthorne Road, our poles used to be, with wooden poles. Now they're composite poles. The guying, so to maintain them in place has been increased to 140 kilometer an hour to sustain 140 kilometer an hour winds. So it's things like that we've done. But again, as I will say, and I think Councillor Brockington asked me this question a few years back, there's really not much I can do but stand back and watch when a 200 kilometer an hour windstorm hits our service territory, and pick up the pieces and move as fast as we can to restore power. So again, managing expectations, yes. Ice storms, windstorms, we can do. We can build and strengthen the situation, but acts of God like derechos, we just pray.
All right, thanks. You talked about that it's not possible to bury more lines, or that's I always get asked that, so I have to throw.
Yeah, it's distinctly possible to bury more lines. It's just 10 times more expensive. Yeah. And so when you're faced with the kind of growth pattern that we are, where we're literally, I mean, we were denied and deferred some of the investments that we want. We wanted to spend this last rate application process, to be very, very clear. I went to my engineers and said, tell me what we need to do to build the system out. What do we need? And they said, it came back, and I fully expected an increase. I fully expected a doubling. What they came back was asking for 4 times the amount of investment required. So 400%, so $2 billion. That's what they thought we needed to keep the system going. We got a little over 1.1 billion. That's what the Ontario Energy Board provided us relief for. So we are being forced to choose how do we optimize those dollars. And yes, we would all like to bury all the infrastructure, but it's just expensive and I can't afford to do it.
Okay, appreciate that, and appreciate again your partnership with the City of Ottawa and with Ottawa Community Housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Chair. Bryce, one sad thing about all the improvement that you've been talking about is that I haven't had nearly the opportunity in the past year and a half to have the kinds of conversations with you and Julie and Guillaume that I thoroughly enjoyed over the past year and a half.
I will miss those Friday night phone calls, Councillor.
Yes, yeah. Sitting outside watching tree boughs from my big maple sway saying, Bryce, is it going to happen now? But the frankness and the sobriety in which you handled those problems then, in which you speak to the historic demand now, is something I continue to relish and to mustard. And so I've really, really benefited from that. On behalf of my residents, like Julie will attest, you haven't had me, call to complain, nervous and frantic late at night because of things happening in Ward 9. There has been a significant improvement. Of course, my residents might not always notice that, but I try to tell them that there has been. So thank you for that. The questions I want to speak to you here, and to a degree, Councillor Kavanagh kind of touched on it, when, Councillor Kavanagh was asking about burying lines. So when you talk about the massive investment that you have before you and the demand that is calling for that investment, yes, it is true that to bury lines might cost 10 times more. And I saw on your slide there that the rate increase that you are projecting, I believe I saw that rate increase was perhaps even less than rate increases from other cities. I'm not sure if I got that right.
That's correct.
So obviously you could meet greater demand by raising that rate even further. We don't necessarily want to do that. But what I want to ask you about is the possible cost benefits that come from integrating projects with others. It's a topic I've asked Hydro. It's a topic I've been asking a lot of people. Integrated project management, coordinating projects at the same time, so they don't have to mobilize and demobilize, dig once, do the work then. So can I ask you, Ottawa is growing at a fast rate. We are having to do tons of projects, utilities, city, different levels of government. Can you speak to what kind of potential cost savings can come from a long lens integration between utilities, levels of government, so that projects happen simultaneously, because you can and will achieve significant cost savings there?
Yeah, well, let me just say, the regulator expects that we're doing this work together. The regulator does not expect that we are sort of ripping up a street after you've just repaired a street. And quite frankly, none of our assets we're not building anything on Saturday that we didn't know about, and nor is the city. So the idea that when this happens, and I know there have been instances, I'm sure you can all give me an example of where, the utility rips up the street to put down new wires, and then, 3 weeks later, someone comes along and rips up the sidewalk to install something else. I know there are examples, but there shouldn't be. Like, we should not have that. That's just not. It's not good for us. It's not good for the ratepayers. It's not good for the residents of Ottawa. So to the extent that we can do better from my side, from Hydro Ottawa side, I'm happy to. I never want to have to deal with that's just wasting money. So. Your broader question, your bigger question, which I think is a very good one, Councillor, is I just don't know. I don't have a short, sweet answer for you. Other than yes, like long-term planning. when we do these rate applications, we're effectively telling the regulator, here's the capital work that we're going to do over the next 5 years. And if you ask my team, they have a capital plan going out 20 years. So they can tell you what they will be doing, or their sons and daughters will be doing, 20 years from now from an engineering perspective. So there is obviously plenty of opportunity to dovetail the work together to make sure that it's done in a more efficient manner. I guess that's probably where I would leave it. And if there are specifics, as I've told each and every one of you, if there's a specific project in your ward that's causing you grief or concern, please reach out to us. We'll find a way to help to work this thing through for you. I'm convinced of that. There's very few instances where we haven't been able to find solutions. So
perfect. Thank you. Another question I had on this slide of your presentation, where you were talking about the impact of large load requests and how 86% of your 2025 load, when you were referring to currently or recently you had 34 inquiries from new businesses to connect, what I wouldn't mind asking is, upon which criteria, through what kind of prioritization project do you determine what to do? Because I assume it's not first come, first serve. I know here at the City of Ottawa, we have strategic priorities and we have term of council goals and we make decisions based on that. My office, I have a mandate. I make decisions based on that mandate. When you get all these requests, whether from, data center or this business here, knowing that time and resources limited, how do you prioritize which projects to do?
Yeah, I wish I had a better answer. It is first come, first serve. It is who pays the bill first, who puts the money down first. So national defense, when they come to us and say we need to, string, 240 poles, they're pretty quick with they're pretty quick to put the deposit down. That's what kickstarts the work. So it is effectively a first come, first served basis. If you want to have a conversation about data centers, I think that's a valid conversation to be having. I've referred to data centers as very, very, very large buildings with very small parking lots. Different provinces, jurisdictions have taken different approaches to data centers. Newfoundland's banned them. Alberta is investing and creating incentives for them to come, and then you've got a mix match across the country. Ontario is, I think, to sum it up, it would be we want them, but only if they're consistent with our provincial agendas. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed message, but no, it is first come, first serve.
All right. So, I know we're in a free market, and I embrace that. But at the same time, I know you're a private entity, but you are a public utility, and governments make decisions all the time where we have to make decisions that prioritize a public utility. Like, you have a response system that in power outages, you will first turn the power back on at the hospital before anybody else.
Correct.
And you do that not because the director of the hospital called you first, but because you have protocols. Knowing that the city, the province, the nation has strategic goals for electrification, would Hydro Ottawa, to benefit the public good, would you be better able to benefit the public good if you had protocols where your prioritization was not just based on who's trying to check first?
Again, it'd be a fantastic conversation to have, Councillor. I think the challenge again is, we are a for-profit corporation. Our job, first and foremost, is to make money for you, the city, our shareholders. So, when you're choosing between national defense, Microsoft, and an infill in Westboro, where do you go? And right now, the answer is whoever puts the deposit down.
Interesting. Good conversation for later. My last question. We've talked about solar panelization before and the impact that can have on the grid. I was at FCM conference recently where I don't remember the name of the company, but they talked about how now is the time. They referred to the fact that municipalities can get a 15% refund credit on capital investments for municipal refits. Commercial projects can get a 30% refund on capital investments for their own panelization retrofits. Can you speak to whether or not the City of Ottawa trying to amplify or build up on that, would that help advance your goals of meeting this historic demand?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Again, thank you for the presentation. Thanks for all your great work and leadership. We're grateful for everything you do. Are the recommendations carried? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move now to the Byward Market District Authority annual meeting of the members. So I'll ask that group to come forward, please. Okay, are we ready? Welcome, everyone. Bienvenue. So we have a bit of a procedural thing we're going to do, I think. So I'm going to turn it over to the chair, Sandy Smallwood, and then he's going to turn it back over to me in a minute.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the annual meeting of the Byward Market District Authority. I'm the chair of the Byward Market District Authority, and I'm here with Suzanne Vaniquet and Victoria Williston, the executive director. Stephen Barry's here.
Your microphone's off.
Okay, I would like to call the annual meeting to order and confirm that the notice of this meeting having been properly delivered and a quorum of members being present, I declare this meeting to be properly constituted. I would like to move to appoint Mayor Sutcliffe as chair of this meeting. May I have a motion from the floor? I see
Yes.
Councillor Plant.
So
may I have a seconder?
Councillor Lowe had been lined up to make that motion. Okay. Councillor Luloff had been lined up to second it. So.
All members in favor? Any contrary? Not seeing any, I declare the motion carried and turn it over to Mayor.
Thank you, Sandy. So we do have some administrative matters to deal with. I would like to have a motion to set the number of directors at 10, to reappoint myself, Nina Kressler, Misha Kaplan, and Shayla Doherty as directors to hold office until the close of the annual meeting of the members in 2029. Appoint Vernon White as a director to hold office until the close of the annual meeting of the members in 2029. Acknowledge receipt of the public accountant's report and the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and appoint MNP LLP as public accountant at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors. Councillor Lowe, you're okay to move that motion, seconded by Councillor Luloff. All those in favor? Is that carried? Okay. So I'll turn it back over to our chair, Sandy Smallwood, vice chair Suzanne Vaniquet, and the executive director, Victoria Williston, to present the annual report to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. Before we begin our formal presentation, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge those whose efforts make our work possible. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the city staff for their steadfast partnership and professionalism, and to the Mayor's Office for its continued strong support of the Byward Market District. I would also like to express my deep appreciation to the members of this board who devote their time, energy, and considerable expertise on an entirely voluntary basis, and whose dedication remains the cornerstone of all that we, as an organization, achieve. The Byward Market District Authority is proud to be part of the solution, and it is one we can only realize by working together to create a vibrant and welcoming district for all who visit. There is real momentum building that gives me great confidence in what lies ahead. As we have a great deal to cover this morning, I shall not occupy your time with the particulars myself. I'm confident, however, that you are in most capable hands. With that, it is my pleasure to turn the floor over to our Vice Chair, Suzanne, who will set the stage for the overview to follow. Suzanne, the floor is yours.
Merci beaucoup, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Welcome to our AGM. We are very proud to be with you today to provide you information about what we realized in 2025 and to present you the plans for 2026 and 2027.
My message as Vice Chair is directed at the importance of building and maintaining relationships. There are several stakeholders that we must cultivate and maintain, but to me, the most important one is you. You are our members, if you will, our stakeholders in a more corporate world. As board members, our mandate is to be your representatives everywhere we go. We want to ensure that we properly deliver the mandate that you have given us. And since we came in existence a mere 3 years ago, I want to ensure that we maintain good communication. I have already reached out to a few of you on this and will continue to do so. But suffice to say that we have some pretty exciting events coming up, starting with Canada Day, just around the corner, that Victoria and her staff will make sure you are fully aware of. If you can join us, great. If not, we will continue to cultivate that relationship and see that you are fully aware and engaged of this year's events and our 200th anniversary coming up. The second message I would like to impart is with respect to our board members. Sandy spoke about the volunteer aspect of their role and how much they give. I am pleased to say that aside from Sandy here, Misha Kaplan has agreed to stay on, as the mayor mentioned, as well as Nina Kressler. Nina, two exceptional individuals with amazing credentials. You may recall that Nina ran the convention center here in Ottawa that was world-renowned for its customer service. That was under Nina's direction. We are fortunate to have them on the team, along with Stephen Barry here to my left, who took on the treasurer's position. Both Nina and Stephen, as I mentioned, are here today. The big news, of course, is that the Honorable Vern White, a friend of mine from his policing days, said yes. I would be honored to join your board, he said. The future is bright, councillors, and I'm very excited about the 12 months ahead. Passing over to you, Victoria.
Thank you, everyone. I won't continue on with the board and committees, but we did skip a few slides there, so we can leave it on this one, and I will let you know when we can change to the next slide, please. Good morning, members of council. It is a pleasure to be with you here today. Serving in public office carries an enormous responsibility, and some of those do happen behind the scenes, coming before you only once a year, like the members' meeting of the Byward Market District Authority. As Suzanne mentioned, the strategic direction set by our board reflects the priorities of council. That work is what follows is delivered by the BMDA, and that is the partnership that I want to speak to this morning. Because when the city faces a challenge in its downtown core, the BMDA is not on the sidelines describing the problem, it is part of the solution. While the Byward Market sits within a single ward, it belongs to all of Ottawa. It is a cultural destination, an economic engine, and one of the most recognized places in the nation's capital. It is also the second highest tax base in the city, generating baseline operating revenue that funds services in every ward. When the district is healthy, the city's bottom line is healthier. Just a brief note before I begin, I will be speaking in an overview capacity regarding 2025 as I was not serving as executive director at that time. However, I have been with the organization for 2.5 years, previously as manager of marketing and communications. 2025 was a year of momentum, and that year proves a simple point. The challenges facing Ottawa's downtown are real, and the byward market is where this organization meets them head on. The district grew busier than it had been in recent memory, and we scaled deliberately to meet that demand. The story is one of return on partnership. When the city and its partners invest in this place, the whole city shares in the result. The numbers that I will be sharing with you today are drawn from our independent audited financial statements, which carry a clean audit opinion. MMP, our auditors, are available on this call and can speak to any questions about the financials following my presentation, as well as our treasurer, Stephen Barry, here with me today. Just a quick overview now of the boards and committees. I do want to note that the work is delivered through 4 strong committees: Finance, Human Resources, Governance and Nominations, and Community Safety and Wellbeing. This is a governance model built to solve problems, not just oversee them. And I want to thank every volunteer for their time and judgment they bring to it. Next slide, please. Visitation is the headline story of 2025, and it is a story of recovery being led, not waited for. The district welcomed 25.57 million visits last year. That's a 16% increase over 2024, attracting 3.5 million more visits. It's the strongest single-year recovery the district has ever recorded. In 7 of those 12 months, we exceeded our 2019 benchmark. That matters. It means the byward market is no longer simply climbing back to where it was before the pandemic. In much of the year, it is already ahead of it, and it is helping to pull up the rest of the downtown core with it. Next slide, please. The success is not accidental. It is engineered through what we call the momentum loop. More visitors and more programming call for more stewardship, and that stewardship in turn draws more visitors. We manage that loop deliberately. As you'll see here on the revenue side, 4.36 million came in, led by property and rental income and by grants and contributions, a healthy, diversified base. On the spending side, 4.45 million went out, directed to operations, our people, and the programming that drives that visitation. You will see that we invested more than we took in. That was a deliberate strategic choice, a planned reinvestment of roughly $180,000 from our reserves into an exceptional opportunity, and we did it from a position of strength, closing the year with $1.34 million in net assets and a $1 million credit facility we never needed to touch. Next slide, please. The work is organized around 4 strategic pillars. The first is foundation, stewarding the physical public realm every single day. On safety, we are part of the solution in the most direct way, funding over $250,000 in private security and launching a new Night Ambassador program in partnership with Ottawa's Nightlife Office. That program delivered 735 team interactions and 40 situations de-escalated, all below its city-funded budget, safety outcomes on time and under budget. On beautification, over $320,000 was invested in the public realm, including the tallest holiday tree that you may remember, and seasonal installations that gave people a reason to come downtown. On cleanliness, more than $350,000 in cleaning, keeping the 2 city-owned buildings that we operate working for the city every day. Next slide, please. Our second pillar is enhancing the visitor experience through a 2-tiered programming model that gives people every reason to choose the byward market. The BMDA last year delivered 271 events, festivals, and markets. That's up 36% over 2024 across 181 days, and 65 of those events we did not create ourselves. That tells you something important. The district has become a destination others actively want to be a part of. Our winter draws anchored the year. Winterlude alone brought 1.22 million visits to the area, and we backed it with more than 4,200 hours of visitor service from the ambassadors throughout the main season. Next slide, please. The BMDA's third pillar is positioning, communications, and advocacy. There is a narrative we all know about Ottawa's downtown, and we made it our job to lead that narrative toward the positive with the results to back it up. We grew our social audience by nearly 14,000 new followers, and the organization sustained 18 active partnerships, including a partnership with Ottawa Tourism that assisted in funding for programming and marketing for Winterlude, Canada Day, and Nuit Blanche. We bring partners and dollars to the table. The organization also earned more than 40 mentions in the news, hosting Winterlude's national launch, staging the Nuit Blanche announcement on York Street, and engaging actively with coverage of the district. We are not waiting for the story to be told about us, we are telling it. Next slide, please. Our fourth and final pillar is economic resilience and growth, and this is where stewardship becomes a springboard, turning a managed district into a launch pad for entrepreneurs and investment. The BMDA in 2025 completed its first ever business census that gives us a baseline of 535 business locations. 93% of those are Canadian owned. For the first time, we can measure our progress year over year. Our public markets issued 260 vending permits, that's up 82% over 2024 rather, and 2 vendors from our program went on to open permanent storefronts in the city. That is economic mobility happening right here in the market. The BMDA also secured $1 million in new city safety funding over 2 years against a district assessed value of $1.07 billion. We also received the city's $800,000 annual operating contribution that continued. Every dollar invested here returns to the whole city. Next slide, please. Apologies. Oh, thank you. To deliver all this, we did build capacity deliberately to match a district delivering 181 days of programming, as I had mentioned. The team grew from 18 to 25 people, with contract hourly staff doubling to deliver the expanded programming as well as our Night Ambassador season. This is the staffing matched precisely to demand, and we brought social content production fully in-house to make us more capable and more cost-effective. On leadership, I will be straightforward. 2025 saw a transition through 2 executive directors, and I stepped into the role in January of this year. I would also like to take a moment to thank the BMDA team for all of their hard work and dedication. Next slide, please. I do also want to take a moment to highlight one part of our operation specifically because it is a model of what active stewardship can achieve, the Parkdale Market. Parkdale is a neighborhood institution, a century-old market operating 7 days per week, May through October, serving roughly 29,000 residents within a 15-minute walk. In 2025, we turned it around. Revenue grew 14% to $212,000, while we brought direct operating costs down 34% to $178,000. The result was a single-year swing of roughly $115,000 from a net loss to a net positive contribution. This is what disciplined management of a public asset looks like. Next slide, please. 2026, the model evolves toward focus and efficiency. Our board has approved a leaner operating budget of $3.684 million. That's a confident shift from funder and operator toward operator focused. We're concentrating our resources on the operational core: stewardship, the public realm, the public market, and community safety. That focus is backed by an additional $800,000 in dedicated city funding for placemaking, a clear vote of confidence. And the work continues this year. The Vendor Village, the Byward Market Square beautification placemaking, and an enhanced safety program, and our second business census. Next slide, please. As you'll see here, the majority of our board is continuing on, giving the district steady hands and deep institutional memory. I do want to thank Brian Chandler, our past chair, for his service through the organization's founding years, as well as those that came before it. And we are strengthening our bench. We welcome the Honourable Vern White, former senator and former Ottawa Police Chief, whose expertise will be a tremendous asset as we deepen our work on community safety. We are bringing the right people to the table to serve the right problems. Next slide, please. And that concludes my overview of the Byward Market District Authority's 2025 annual report. You can find the whole report on our website, a little shout out, bywardmarket.com. Thank you for your time, and we would now be pleased to take your questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Conseillère Plante.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you to both Victoria. Excuse-moi, j'ai presque oublié ton nom, Sylvie, excuse-moi. And Sandy for being here. I really appreciate it. I took a lot of notes, so I do have just a couple questions, and if there's something you need to get back to me on later, feel free to do so. Some of them are a bit sort of numbers heavy. So I wanted to start out, you said at the beginning that the Byward Market is a city asset. Do you believe it's a neighborhood asset as well?
Of course.
Okay, you just didn't mention that, so that's why I wanted to clarify that right away. And my next question is for Cyril. Can you clarify if the Byward Market is, I read the stat one time, maybe you can clarify, is it 26 or 27% of the city's budget, or is that downtown as a whole?
Mr. Mayor, that would not be correct. I can get back to you on the exact percentage because we do have a $5 billion budget, so 26% would not be correct.
Okay, because I believe it was at an Ottawa Board of Trade event. They mentioned that the downtown is 26 or 27% of the city's budget as a whole, but it could be the entirety of downtown, not just the Byward. But if you could carve out the Byward for me, including the property taxes, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Victoria, do you have an update on the historical designation? I know you probably weren't involved in like the application of the historical designation, but are you in touch at all with Heritage Canada on that?
I have yet to receive an update on that, but I did submit a letter of the Byward Market District Authority's support for that designation, yes.
Okay, so I'll CC the Heritage Canada people and put you in on the email because I would like an update before the 200th anniversary next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor.
I do want to press something that I was thinking about this week. We are holding a lot more what I call diaspora events. So you mentioned the Cinco de Mayo, the Polish event, the Shawarma Fest, et cetera. I do think this is a bit of an untapped sort of area that we could really, really thrive on because we do have more communities that are looking for places to celebrate in a plein air kind of place. And I do think, you know, I went to Polish Fest. Those pierogies were really good. So we could, you know, we could capitalize more on that. We do have, especially in my area, in Councillor Tierney's area, and Councillor King's area, more Francophone, especially diaspora communities that are wanting to affirm themselves. Like, if you've been to the Haitian flag raising, you'll know exactly what I mean. So I do maybe want to have a side chat with you about that because I think there's a lot of room for collaboration that could be done here. And I agree it is changing the face of the market. I do want to thank also Priyak, who came with us to the American Embassy to go see their Bollards program. I agree that we need to have more flexible spaces and more use of those flexible spaces, and we need to be able to do that on a dime. And I think some sort of investment, and you can tell me how we can better ask for a bag for that, for the Bollards would be good, not just for the Byward, but for the businesses and the surrounding communities. So I do have another question. So you said you have night ambassadors, day ambassadors, you have the block leaders, there's all these interactions. Is that your own data or was that verified by a third party?
The night ambassadors and the day ambassadors are the Byward Market District Authority staff, whereas the block leaders are part of a different organization, Ottawa Inner City Health.
But you do pay them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So the interactions you said you had, the de-escalations, that's your own data or that's verified by a third party?
That is our own data collected by Byward Market District Authority staff, specifically for the Night Ambassador program.
Okay, thank you. That's the only reason I mention that is because I do get a lot of complaints that there's a lot of people, quote, walking around in official and sort of non-official capacities. And, you know, there's this sentiment that, yeah, that's great that they're walking around, but they have no powers, for example, to shut down the guy with the Costco speakers on William Street preaching. They have no powers to remove anyone who is blocking a doorway. They have, you know, that kind of thing. So I do appreciate that, but, and I know you're going to talk about the Pulse, employees that you guys are hiring, but they too don't have the authority to remove people. So it's just something that I think you and I should talk about because it is still a problem. It's still ongoing. It's improving. I will acknowledge that, but it's, you know, it's something that makes people feel uncomfortable, especially tourists. And we had an issue, by the way, with it this weekend at the car show, but we can talk about that after. So last thing for Mr. White coming on to the board is, will that be a remote position? Because he does live in Finland. No problem, by the way. I do a lot of things remote, but will that be a remote position or is he moving back?
He's moving back, Councillor.
Best news all day. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think that's it. I have a question then. What do you think I can best help you guys advocate for? What is it that you need? What is it that you need me to sort of go into the media and speak loud and proud about or beg for? I'm at your service.
I have a twofold answer to that probably right now. The Byward Market District Authority as an organization, as we're not a BIA, we don't have automatic emails for the businesses in the district. But where I would love your help is to get in contact with the residents so we can have more resident feedback in order to influence or help us with our decision making in the future. As for the media and the sentiment there, really, I think we're all rowing in the same direction, and we all want the best thing for the Byward Market and the downtown as a whole. And I see a lot of potential with just the groups behind that initiative right now. And I think that positivity is what is really important, and that communication and that connection with those groups.
Yeah, and I just want to point out to members of council that I did suggest having a resident voice on the board, and it was discouraged. So I agree with you, actually. There should be more resident voices on the board. So that is something I think is very important. But yeah, no, that is not a problem. And I'm slightly obsessed, just wanted to let you know, with underground parking. So if ever you want to join me for that discussion, there's lots of hotels that have it, and it's something I think the Byward would definitely benefit from. Merci beaucoup.
Councillor, just a comment on having a resident on the board. My understanding is our board is not allowed to have anybody on it who owns property or has a business within the district. So it's a limitation that we are stuck with in terms of board composition.
So 73% of people in Ward 12 are renters, myself included. I'm happy to help you find someone who could join that board, meeting the legal parameters.
Yeah, we'd be happy to look in and see if we're allowed to have somebody who's a resident, because they would still have a conflict of interest. Whether they're a renter or an owner, they would still have an interest and have a potential conflict of interest on the board. But, you know, if we can get a legal opinion saying that that's not a problem, then we would be very happy to address that.
So I'm happy to help you get that legal opinion. I would be very curious about the home ownership versus the rental component as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, if I may, Madame Bigra, the president of the Lower Town Community Association, is a member of our Community and Safety Wellbeing Committee. So we do have representation of the residential area on that particular committee.
And I appreciate that, but she doesn't have a vote, so that's why I brought that up. Thank you.
No, but she's a person of influence.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Thank you. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the team here today to provide the update and the annual report. It's good to see progress. It's mostly positive news for both Byward and Parkdale. And as I said before, I have strong positive feelings about the Byward market historically, going back as a kid, and am very eager to see the progress continue. I just have a few questions, if I may. How do you count a visit?
Good question, Councillor. Visits and visitors, unique visitors, are separate. We use a software called Environics, and that is what tracks the visitation, I believe, through cell phone data. So visits are anyone who crosses what is defined as the Byward Market boundary as submitted to Environics, and it can be multiple visits. So if you were to go to work and then leave the district again and then go back, that would be counted as 2 visits. But unique visitors are the data only one time. So if you cross in and out, it's still only counted as 1. I believe on the slide, I don't remember which one, it does say unique visitors and visits.
Excellent, thank you. As progress continues and more people visit the Byward Market, I would love to see data on why people are coming to the market. And I know that may sound like a very odd thing for me to say, but if we can survey people who are now coming back to the market, who have not come for some time, and if you're able to collect those reasons why, then you can measure, well, we are on the right course because we've cleaned up garbage, or it's safer, or there are better businesses, there are more activities. Do more of that to attract more people. And then And that can be done on site, summer students right in the market, but it's also important to survey people who don't come to the market and ask them why. What would have to happen for people to come back to the market or visit the market? So what type of ongoing surveying or polling do you do, if any, with visitors to understand, are they having a good experience? What's contributing to the good experiences? And what's contributing to experiences that are not positive?
Thank you, Councillor. Right now, the data informed is my ethos. Right now, we do intercept surveys during event days to see what drew visitors down there. Was it the event? Was it the program? Or did they simply just come? Were they just in the district? We also survey the businesses in the district with respect to things like cleanliness, beautification, safety, and security. But as you said, we do want to ramp that up, and we do want to start surveying people who, as you say, aren't coming to the market and find out why, and then find out what we can do as an organization and what we can do as a city to get them to return to the downtown.
Perfect, thank you. The last thing I'll say in the grand scheme of things is minor, but it's important to me. Calling a Christmas tree a holiday tree does not sit well with me. We don't rename Eid or Passover. We don't call it anything else. But this notion to rename Christmas something other than Christmas, I think, is not acceptable to those who celebrate it. So I want to park that with you potentially for this year. We light a Christmas tree, and it should be called a Christmas tree. So thank you.
Noted, Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thanks very much. I just have two quick questions. One is just on your, first of all, thank you for being here, but your financing, the $800,000 you received from the city, is that sufficient funding?
Thank you, Councillor, for that question. I would like to give a response and of course let our treasurer, my colleagues Victoria and Sandy speak as well. We're doing an awful lot of work, I can tell you that. I'm amazed at how much we're asking our employees to do, and definitely we could likely use more employees. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Yeah. So that's one point. The second one is we received funding this year and for next year as a pilot project to start up a security program. And we have all of you to thank for that. I will say, however, that a security program is an extremely expensive undertaking, especially with the challenges that our downtown core has right now. So if I was to be honest, I would say to you that if we were to receive more funding for our security program, that would be a big, beautiful thing, because it is a very difficult and very expensive undertaking. Want to add to that?
I'll just echo what Suzanne said. $1 million over 2 years for whether it's holistic intervention or safety and security it's not as large as people think, and I know that you know that. And with every new program that comes online at the Byward Market District Authority, it's essential for the staff team to have someone looking it over, to be that point person for it. And so funds for that would also be integral. Funds for beautification as well as cleanliness would be amazing as well, because more is more. The more revenue we receive, the more funding we get, the more we can do as an organization.
Thanks. And are you noticing a change due to OPS, Ottawa Police Service, presence in the market at all? Is that having an impact, or have you noticed?
Thank you, Councillor. It is early days, but I am hopeful that it will make an impact.
We have an amazing relationship with the Ottawa Police Service, and they are very, very interested and excited about working with us. I will add to that because we now have Vern White on our board, I think you're going to see an even better relationship develop there and better results because of that.
Okay, thanks. And then just my last question, getting people to the market, there's been some people take transit. There's been some commitment by OC Transpo to improve Rideau Station. Have you had any discussions with OC Transpo on how to, you can work together to get more people taking transit to the Byward Market?
Thank you, Councillor. The good news is yes. I now sit on, I don't know if it's a committee or just simply a meeting, but I do sit on in a meeting that happens bi-weekly with members of the city, and OC Transpo is one of those that are in attendance, and they do speak about the improvements that are coming to Rideau Station with feedback from the Byward Market District Authority.
Okay, but when you're organizing events, do you talk about, do you work with OC Transpo on how to get more people taking transit to these events? Like, are they at the table at all?
No, but I think that's a very good opportunity to have them at the table. I will note we did open discussions with OC Transpo last year with respect to the night ambassadors and perhaps being able to offer free transit for those who may need that to get home. And I do hope to continue those discussions.
Okay, thanks. I do think it's an important piece of getting people to the market, is making sure that it's a safe way to get to the market. So pleased to those discussions. Thanks very much for being here today.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I will just focus quickly on the Parkdale Market, which I think you very accurately described as a treasure in the neighborhood. We love our Parkdale Market. I'm looking at the reduction in the operating expenses, which obviously has not resulted in a reduction of revenues. But I think some members of the community may be concerned that there is underinvestment or lost potential to invest in even more programming that could drive more revenue at the Parkdale Market. What is your outlook for investment in Parkdale Market programming? Status quo, or can we anticipate even more?
We welcome it, and I can speak to this year. We are 90% fully operational on the vendor side, which brings in revenue. And the amount of events that we have at the Parkdale Market for this year, I would have to double check with our lovely Parkdale Market manager, Tina, who, when we started in 2024, there was no dedicated staff member to Parkdale Market. And then in 2025, Tina became the Parkdale Market coordinator, and that's when we saw the improvement. And through that improvement, she's now been promoted to Parkdale Market manager. And so far this year, she's already, I don't want to make up a number, but I know that she's already secured significant private investment from sponsorship dollars.
Fantastic.
From local organizations and businesses in the district.
Okay, there's multiple nights a week that could still be programmed at Parkdale Market, and we love everything that Tina is doing. I had a chance to check out Wench Fair this weekend. That was awesome. Vegan Sioux Snack is still coming up, and of course the Wednesday night markets are happening in Hintonburg and Wellington Village. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. And so there being no further questions, I will call for a motion from Councillor Lowe, seconded by Councillor Luloff, to adjourn.
That the annual meeting of the members be adjourned.
Is that carried? Okay, thank you, everyone. Merci, Suzanne. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Victoria. Stephen? Okay, we are going to go back to item 8.3.2 on the agenda, and I will turn it over to Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak briefly to the two items on this agenda under other communications received. So Ottawa Public Health's report on the Canada Lakes Golf Course site and the City Solicitor's memo on the same file are both on here. They're lengthy, and I just will give you a little bit of a quick summary so you understand what we're dealing with. So for months now, you know that residents of Canada Lakes have been watching heavy equipment disturb soil with documented mercury contamination directly behind their homes. They've sent me photographs, they've sent you photographs, they've sent messages to us about the 3 dead coyotes that were found. They're asking a simple question, really. Is this safe, and how do we know it is? So I want to put these two reports side by side because I think doing so reveals something important. Ottawa Public Health concluded there's no indication of exposure risk given the data that developers consultant produced. The city solicitor's memo concludes that mercury concentrations from the same data do not represent a significant risk to surrounding receptors. But the two separate city reports say the same thing, and they have two reassuring conditions, but I want to be precise about what those conclusions are actually based on. They're based on testing conducted by the developers own consultant years ago that the city's independent reviewer, WSP, has formally confirmed is incomplete and inadequate. So methylmercury, the toxic form that accumulates in living tissue, has never been tested on this site, including in the very same examples where mercury was already found to exceed provincial standards. Pond sediments next to that contamination have never been sampled. So in plain terms, we don't know what we don't know. And both of these reports are telling residents not to worry using data that cannot answer the question being asked. It's important for all of us to know that the city tried to find out for itself. It asked permission to independently test this site, and the developer said no. So I'll let that sit for a moment because I think it speaks for itself. The city asked to do its own testing on the site, and the developer said no. So I want to be fair and appreciative to Mr. Huxley. His memo does its job very well. It assesses the city's legal exposure on that narrow question, and I have no quarrel with his analysis. But the city's legal exposure and whether residents have the full picture are two different questions. Today, only one of them has been answered. The city's limiting its liability and doing what it can to mitigate risk. The developer is responsible for its actions and the consequences. This is very important for us to know as city councillors. I want to thank Dr. Arneson and my colleagues on the Ottawa Public Health Board and Chair Kitts in particular. As a result of so many unknowns and the refusal of the developer to allow the city to do its own proper and fulsome testing, Dr. Arneson has written a letter to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks to let them know that he's concerned that we don't know what we don't know and the city's not being allowed access to do its own testing. There's one more thing in the solicitor's memo I want to draw the council's attention to. Stuart Huxley confirms in writing that all of the 1981 agreements contractual projections are now void, and has confirmation from external environmental and planning law council that the province retains authority to intervene directly through a minister's zoning order under Section 47 of the Planning Act. That confirmation matters because the legal protections this community relied on are gone, but the promise behind them, 40% of this land set aside for the community in perpetuity, that promise hasn't gone anywhere. It's just lost its legal teeth. What's left is political will and the tools the province still holds. Which brings me to why I'm commenting today. Later on in this agenda, the mayor and I will be introducing a notice of motion asking the province to use exactly this tool, to step in with a minister's zoning order or other legislative means to preserve this land as green space the way it was always intended to be. If you and anyone else have any comments, I'd be interested to hear them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kitts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank Councillor Curry for her continued advocacy for her residents on this issue. I just wanted to chime in as chair of the Board of Health. We did receive a report from OPH staff at our last meeting that detailed a thorough investigation that reviewed all information to date. And it found no indication of an imminent health hazard at the site. But this was based primarily on the information about exposure risk from mercury in combination with the testing done previously at the site in 2021. So Ottawa Public Health's work is based on current information about the site, and I do want to emphasize that protecting residents' health is OPH's top priority. But despite the report to the board, and as you heard Councillor Curry explain, OPH's involvement is not over. It has not concluded. They will continue to review any new site-specific information provided by appropriate regulatory or municipal partners, and they will act immediately within its legislated role if any public health risk arises. We want to recognize too that this is an ongoing concern, especially regarding the limits to the soil testing done to date, as noted by the city's third-party reviewer, WSP Canada, and it is OPH's view that more testing should take place to better characterize the distribution of potential contaminants across the site. So as Councillor Curry was describing, Dr. Arneson has written a letter to the MECP asking that they consider WSP's peer review and require additional testing on site. And they will continue to remain engaged with the city's planning, development and building services department, as well as the environmental authorities on this issue. So I just wanted to reemphasize that from the Ottawa Public Health perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kitts. Councillor Plante.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question is for the councillor or for Mr. Huxley, but what are we asking the province to do exactly? I'm a little, I've never heard of this before, so that's why I'm asking.
Sorry, that's a notice of motion that's coming up at the end of the meeting. So it'll just be noticed today, and then we can discuss it when the motion's in front of us next council meeting.
Okay, and sorry, and this, I think this is a question for you. Did you just say in your comments that there has been testing done by the developer, and then they're not letting an independent third party come do testing? Did I hear that correctly?
WSP has come and made an assessment that the testing needs to be done properly, and the city has asked whether the city could do testing, and the developer said no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Curry, I'll just say thank you to you again for your advocacy on behalf of your community and all of your hard work on this, and I look forward to introducing the notice of motion and supporting it at the next council meeting. Thank you. All right, we will go to item 17.1, which is the Ottawa Paramedic Service 2025 Annual Report. And Councillor Brockington, you had some questions?
I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. First, as chair of the committee, I just want to thank staff, all members of the paramedic service, for their service to the people of Ottawa, in addition to our paramedics, all the support and logistical staff who keep the service running 365 days a year. Their service is very much appreciated. And colleagues, I invite you through your newsletters and other communication tools to trumpet the progress and success and the good news, particularly in this annual report that touches upon two main items in particular I'll just mention today. One is the improvements, or frankly, the near elimination of level zeros, which is a significant milestone for the Ottawa Paramedic Service. Level 0, of course, is when no ambulances have been available to respond for service. Through innovative ways to provide service, through the new dispatch system, through investment that Council has made and prioritized, through new FTEs, we have collectively, through the leadership of our GM and Chief, like I said, really significantly reduced those instances. The other is the offload delay progress. In the report, it clearly illustrates that the amount of time that patients are waiting to be offloaded from paramedics to hospital staff improved in all of our hospitals. And I think only one of the hospitals has improvements to make. Obviously, we don't want any offload delay, but again, the times that patients are waiting to be offloaded have come down again this term of council. So better service, faster service for our patients who are waiting to either have a paramedic come to the home or be transitioned or transferred when in a hospital. There was information in the report that did get some attention from members, and media reported on it as well, and that was respect to one of our performance targets, the CTAS1. CTS stands for Canadian Triage and Acuity Scale. And a couple questions, if I may. So the CTAS1, is this a good indicator of overall paramedic service performance?
Mayor, thank you for the inquiry. CTAS1, the Canadian Triage and Acuity Scale, ranks a patient's presentation from a medical point of view and assigns the severity of illness or injury to that individual patient. Of note, a couple of items. One is this is done at the patient's side, so it requires the patient to be beside at the patient bedside. And of note, our benchmarks are actually 5 different CTAS scores, 1 through 5. And on 4 of the 5, we did meet the benchmark. CTAS 1, those are life-threatening situations, severe chest pain, respiratory illness that's severe. Today, just to put it in context, we do 350 calls where we're at the patient side a day. The number of CTAS events, CTAS 1 events, would be 7. So of those 7, we meet the criteria on at least 5 of those. And for us to meet the benchmark, and this seems a little bit interesting, to meet the benchmark that is established by a committee and council, it would require us to meet 5.3 of the 7 patients. So we're talking less than 1 patient a day that we're not meeting the benchmark. Now, I never want to minimize the importance of this, because when someone calls 911, it is their emergency, and it's our duty to respond. And we take this seriously. I'm concerned about us not meeting the benchmark, but recognizing what a small percentage of those calls that it actually is. So in response to your question, CTAS scores are an indicator of how robust and strong our service level is. The CTAS 1 is a very important piece to that, and we'll continue to work on that.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Certainly important for us to have this additional information in the public domain, so I appreciate your reply. The other question I have is, what factors affect your service's ability to consistently meet the CTAS 1 standard?
Recognizing that this is a small number, as I've mentioned previously, the City of Ottawa has a vast geography, and we're dealing with, of those 350 calls that we deal with each day, we have done probability analysis where the next call should originate, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be there. So over the last several years, we've dedicated resources to the rural community, understanding that we don't want long responses in rural communities. As in some ways, you know, arguably it would be best to have them all inside the Greenbelt where most of our calls are occurring. But we've chosen not to do that because we service all residents to the City of Ottawa to the best of our ability. The items that impact that are our deployment plan, which we evaluate on a regular basis. Offload delay, which you mentioned previously, is where there's been a significant improvement because that has an impact on our availability. And then the last piece would be the actual number of paramedics that are available in the community or the resource levels that we put on the road. And then just add one more context to it. From the investment plan that committee and council approved, it was a 3-year plan, and we're in the 3rd year of that plan. And we're hiring 23 paramedics this year to continue to bolster our service and to improve the service level that we provide to our community. So coming back to the original question, availability of paramedics in the community, offload delay, and the hiring of new staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for that additional information on these matters. And again, please pass along my sincere appreciation for the service of all members of the Ottawa Paramedic Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Just a couple of quick follow-up questions, Chief. If you could just expand a little bit on what's been done to better serve rural Ottawa, I think that would be great, because I know there were a lot of concerns expressed a few years ago about where things stood and what the response times were. So if you could just give a little bit more detail on that, that would be great.
Mr. Mayor, we recognized a few years ago that our service delivery to the rural communities was not what it should be. We provided last year, we added 3 dedicated resources to the rural area, Kinburn, Richmond, and Metcalfe, to improve the service. And in this year's report, we did note significant improvement in our service delivery to the rural communities. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for that. And I just want to highlight, Councillor Brockington mentioned the level 0 events. I've just got some data here that I'm hoping you can confirm. In 2022, I heard a lot about this from residents, about the level 0 events. And I understand there were 73,000 minutes in 2022 when there was not a single ambulance available in Ottawa. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
So I did the math on that. 73,000 minutes works out to 3 hours and 20 minutes per day in the city of Ottawa in 2022 when there was not a single ambulance available. In 2025, the total for level 0 was 866 minutes. So 73,000 minutes in 2022, 866 minutes in 2025. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And again, I did the math. That works out to 2 minutes a day. So we've gone, it's not perfect, but we've gone from 3 hours and 20 minutes a day where there's no ambulance available to 2 minutes a day where there's no ambulance available. I think that's a huge improvement. So I want to congratulate you and your team for that hard work. That's an almost 99% improvement or reduction in the number of level 0 events. And I think that's outstanding work by you and your team. And I'm proud that we were able to support that work with the decisions that we made to support what you're doing by hiring more paramedics and giving you more resources. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is that item received? Thank you. There are no in-camera items, so we will go to the motion to adopt reports. Councillor Lowe.
That the report from the Hydro Ottawa Holding Inc. entitled Hydro Ottawa Holding Inc. 2025 Annual Report, Audit Committee Report 18, Built Heritage Committee Report 32A, Joint Environment and Climate Change, and Emergency Preparedness and Protective Services Committee Report 2, Emergency Preparedness and Protective Services Committee Report 25, Environment and Climate Change Committee Report 25, Planning and Housing Committee Report 67, and the reports from the City Clerk entitled Status Update, Council Inquiries and Motions for the period ending June 19th, 2026, and Summary of Oral and Written Public Submissions for items subject to the Planning Act explanation requirements at the City Council meeting of June 10th, 2026 be received and adopted as amended.
Is that carried? Thank you. Motions of which notice has previously been given. Mill Street, 1127, Dickinson House. Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, this disposal will allow the City of Ottawa to move away from some non-core buildings and facilities that we have while ensuring that they remain operating within this rural village. This is an organization that we are already partnered with. We do a lot of great work with them, and they do a lot of great work for the community. At the end of the day, I think it's extremely important to keep cultural buildings like this operating in our small villages. They are huge attractions to the local economy, and they are very family friendly. And so I hope, Mr. Mayor and colleagues, that you'll all be able to unanimously support the motion before you today. I'd like to thank staff for the work that they've done, and of course the Watson's Mill Board for being able and willing to take on these facilities for the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is that carried? All right, next is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference and Trade Show bid. Councillor Tierney, I don't know if you wanted to speak to that. Okay. Is it carried? Commemorative naming for Tyson Lefebvre, moved by Councillor Gower. Is that carried? Commemorative naming for Kalinda Joseph, moved by Councillor Gower. Is that carried? The motion on the Alto high-speed rail project, Councillor Kitts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As we all know, Alto is a federal project. We don't have any decision-making authority over it, but wherever it goes, it is going to impact our communities. It's going to impact people, residents, homes, land, municipal infrastructure. And so far, the process has been pretty opaque. We do know about certain project milestones and the criteria that is being used to evaluate the ultimate corridor, but we don't know the weighting of that criteria. And, you know, residents are seeing drones fly over their properties. They are getting requests for access to their property, all with very little information. And they are nervous. They are they have a lot of anxiety about what this means for the communities that they love and have lived in for generations for some, and what it could mean for their livelihoods. So Councillor Skalski and I, with the appreciated support from the mayor, felt it was important to clearly articulate council's expectation to planning staff that are engaged on this file, and also to Alto and to the federal government, that we want transparency, we want better communication, that the corridor, as the corridor is evaluated, we voice our opposition to loss of prime agricultural land, undue disturbance to municipal infrastructure, and that expropriation should ultimately be considered a last resort. So bringing this forward on behalf of communities that are really nervous about what this project could mean for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kitts. Councillor Skalski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to start by just thanking Councillor Kitts for her leadership and collaboration on this motion. Both of our communities lie directly within the Alto Eastern Study Corridor, and we've both, as Councillor Kitts mentioned, heard firsthand from residents who have serious concerns about this project. Colleagues, it's important that we stand shoulder to shoulder in supporting this motion. Every day at City Hall, we work to improve public infrastructure and strengthen the connectivity of our neighborhoods. We invest tremendous effort into protecting our water sources, preserving farmland, and building strong connected communities. If the impacts of this rail line are not properly mitigated, this project risks undoing much of that work. High-speed rail is fundamentally different from conventional rail. It does not typically allow for the standard grade crossings where vehicles can just cross the tracks when a train is not present. For safety reasons, it generally requires a fully secured and fenced corridor. That's not just a rail line, that's a barrier. And if we're not careful, that barrier could cut through our city and permanently reshape the communities that we have worked so hard to build. So infrastructure should connect communities, not divide them. We need to be clear, consistent, and united in conveying that message at every opportunity. So as a council, we must be firm that we will not accept roads and infrastructure that taxpayers have invested millions of dollars in being dead-ended or rendered ineffective. We will not support a design that separates residents from their communities, essential services, or emergency services. We will not accept plans that compromise wildlife corridors, wetlands, or our water sources. And we will insist that impacts to productive farmland are avoided wherever possible. These have to be our red lines. Staff need to know it, the public needs to know it, and we as a council need to be united on this. Whether you support or oppose Alto is not the question at all. Around this table, we won't determine the fate of this project. What we do determine is whether we're fulfilling our responsibility as municipal leaders. Residents are counting on us to protect their roads, their water, their communities, and their farmland. So that responsibility does not change because the project is federally led. And that is exactly what this motion seeks to reinforce. On the issue of consultation, when the Alto team presented to PWIC last fall, I came away cautiously optimistic about a federally led nation building project. They were upfront that this would be a challenging undertaking. They explained that high-speed rail requires a relatively straight alignment and that they were studying a broad corridor in order to understand the impacts before selecting a preferred route. Unfortunately, that message did not reach many of the residents most affected by the project. There were no direct mailouts to many impacted property owners unless their land was being actively studied. Beyond a handful of citywide public consultations, many residents learned about the project through social media, word of mouth, and unofficial town halls. And that created confusion, uncertainty, and it created a lot of fear. So over the past year, I've had a steady stream of residents come to my office with questions that frankly Alto should be answering. And these are not unreasonable concerns, and they're not a product of simple opposition to the project. Residents are asking legitimate questions about their property rights, the use of their information, the impacts on their communities, and the future of their land. And so those questions do deserve clear answers. Now that Alto has concluded this phase of consultation and it's moving towards selecting a preferred corridor, public engagement must improve. If Alto wants public confidence in this project, it must provide meaningful consultation, transparent information, and direct engagement with the communities most affected. So the decision made in the coming months will have consequences that last generations. Residents deserve to be informed, to be heard, and respected throughout that process. So I will certainly be supporting this motion today, and I strongly encourage you all to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thanks very much, and thank you for moving this. Thank you to the movers for moving this motion. I speak as a councillor on the west side of the proposed project, west side relative to the city of Ottawa, I guess, where the rail corridor, especially now that especially now with the recent announcement that Kingston is going to be selected, or sorry, Kingston has been indicated as a preferred location for one of their stations, that this route will possibly go through my ward and my neighboring Laurier Avenue West ward. And the existing rail corridor in our two wards is backed by houses in a right of way that's less than 60 meters, and Alto has stated that their preferred right of way is 60 meters. And questions that have been posed to Alto about impacts on homes, in my case, have gone fairly unanswered. They've said that it's a last resort. They'll do whatever, fairly usual bureaucratic answers. But it is concerning that the level of opacity. Yeah, the level of opacity, I think is the word. It has been concerning because some of these questions. Actually, all of these questions should not be answered by us. They should be answered by Alto, but residents are coming to us because there's been nothing else from anyone else. And even my MP's office has had trouble helping us getting Alto to talk to us. I'm grateful, however, to their credit, I'm grateful that they are meeting with me in July, and then hopefully we'll get some better answers and not just more of the same. But I just want to indicate, say that I'm fully supportive of this motion, and I hope that whatever's going on in the east right now will not be reflected in the west, and that we'll have a much better experience when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Devine.
Beg your pardon, I thought there were other speakers before me. So colleagues, I do want to acknowledge the genuine concerns that are being raised here, particularly by rural residents and farmers, the uncertainty around potential impacts on your home, on land, on your community. That is a real uncertainty. And I do appreciate that Councillor Kitts is bringing those voices forward through this motion. But I do think we need to be careful about what this motion is asking of Alto. In several places, this motion reads as if we are asking Alto to be something other than what it is mandated to be, which is a federal entity that is advancing a nationally significant rail project that is still at an early stage corridor analysis. I also want to address the motion's implication, at least as I read it, the motion's implication of limited transparency. Just 2 days ago, Alto released their consultation report. That report documents extensive engagement, tens of thousands of submissions, dozens of in-person sessions across the corridor, and detailed reporting on exactly the kinds of concerns that are raised here in the motion. Concerns and submissions about farmland protection, expropriation, connectivity, and uncertainty. The report also explains how that input is being incorporated into route selection and mitigation. The other challenge I have with the motion is this, that I don't know how we as the City of Ottawa can, on one hand, welcome Alto as a historic nation-building project, a project that will have significant economic and strategic benefits to our city, and on the other hand, communicate an expectation that impacts to agricultural land and private property be avoided, and that we as a council, as was mentioned in remarks, that we as a council will speak in unanimous opposition to the project interrupting roads or severing properties. I don't know how to square that. Through the chair.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. The motion does not ask for unanimous opposition to the project.
No, the motion, I said, the motion did not, but I said the speaker's comments did. Council.
Okay, we'll come back to that, but I don't think, just to be clear, I don't think the motion is actually opposing the project. The motion is asking for better consultation and better collaboration with the communities affected by the project.
can I speak to my points? My points were that we need to stand united against the idea that a project can sever our lands. We need to agree that that is not acceptable and that we need to require Alto to mitigate the impacts that could be caused by this infrastructure project. That we all need to agree on.
And that is, Chair, that is what I was referencing, not the language of the motion, although the language of the motion does say that staff will communicate to Alto that impacts to private property be avoided. It says and mitigated. I don't know how it can be avoided. And so I don't know how to communicate that request to staff. So I do have a question to staff. As I just mentioned, the motion directs staff to communicate to Alto Council's expectation that impacts to agricultural land and private property be avoided and mitigated. Can staff clarify how they would translate that direction into advice to Alto from a planning perspective? Specifically, would staff interpret this as asking for absolute avoidance? And how would that be communicated in a way that is credible or consistent with Council's broader position about Alto?
Through the chair, I would say that, so I'm going to parse my words here a little because we are under an NDA, but in our engagement, they are not asking for staff's opinion or advice on their decisions or their process. What we are doing is trying to provide them accurate land use and transportation information so that they make well-informed decisions. So when I read the motion, it says to be avoided or mitigated. So I do believe that there's some flexibility there on how that would work, but I'm not concerned about our ability to implement this. For example, we would want to share with them up-to-date zoning and mapping of where our agricultural lands are. I think this conversation and this motion being so public makes it very clear to Alto, and the much longer operating clauses of this motion in terms of the direction to Alto and the federal government directly makes it clear what council's opinion is. And I think that the clause related to staff is just making it crystal clear that staff should not be, if this passes, staff should not be recommending or providing any advice to Alto staff that does not stay in keeping with the intent here.
I appreciate that, and I will repeat that I completely support the motion giving voice to a credible anxiety. I have been through similar projects myself where uncertainty over major projects have a tangible impact on residents' anxiety. I agree with that. I just try to imagine the outcome of this motion where staff will walk into a room with Alto and communicate council's desire that impact to private property be avoided. And I try to see how that lands with Alto. And Alto will say, I don't know how to do that. This is a national project. And so I appreciate the spirit of the motion, absolutely. I just don't know how to square it with the broader support that the council has for the project. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say I support the motion before us. I thank the movers for moving it for discussion today. I attended the session, one of the sessions that Alto hosted this past winter. They were not consultations. It was an information session at best, with no answers to questions that people came with. So the public showed up very engaged, a public that wants to be engaged in this process, but Alto has not been able to answer key questions. So I don't refer to it as a consultation. It was not a consultation. And as I've spoken to, wearing my AMO hat, members across this province in rural Ontario, they share very similar concerns to what we've heard Councillor Scalzi and Kitts mention today. This is not an Ottawa issue, this is a provincial issue, and it will become a national issue because I'm sure these concerns transcend across provinces. In addition to the rural concerns, I have concerns with the position taken by our Board of Trade about a downtown station. We haven't had a debate or discussion in this forum. This is the proper way for a city council to take positions. And when the local downtown councillors weren't even part of an engaged discussion about whether or not to endorse a letter advocating for a downtown station, again, in the spirit of transparency, I have a concern with that position taken, and I've made my position well known to the Board of Trade on that matter. So if Alto doesn't truly engage the public that they serve with meaningful, good faith dialogue, which takes time, okay, you have to put in the time, not because we're rushed on their timelines, but this is basically a new national railway that is being considered, then the national project will not be successful. You're already hearing one national party leader say, if they come back into office, they will kill this plan. And a lot of that is probably motivated by the fact that there are people across this country, in Eastern Canada at least, who are opposing this right now because they have not had meaningful, engaged dialogue with Alto. So it's almost like the project is unsuccessful before it even starts because people don't feel heard and they have legitimate concerns that must be addressed before the matter can move forward. So I support this. I think we need to make a statement. I know other councils have invited Alto to come and have a dialogue before them. I don't know if that's possible here in Ottawa, but I don't think our issues are going away. I think as Alto continues to progress, we're going to hear more and more from our own residents about concerns that they have. I would just ask the mover and seconder in their final statement, or therefore statement, when we talk about who can be copied on this motion, may I kindly suggest with their approval that we add the FCM and AMO as recipients of this letter, if that would be
yes,
friendly?
For sure. Friendly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Councillor Carr?
Yeah, thanks very much. Currently, a gander at my inbox would reveal top 3 topics would probably be rezoning of lands for housing on Riverside Drive, community mailboxes, and Alto. None of these projects are municipal projects. They are all federal projects, of which I've only been given a generic email address from each of them in order to respond to residents' concerns. Residents expect that the local councillor has information about these things that we do not. In the case of Alto, prior to the consultations last year, the CEO stated that he had his eye on where the VIA station is. The VIA station's in my ward, for those of you that don't know. He's also stated on the radio, this is all French media, that we need 600 meters in order to put the station in. So the empty federal lands at Saint Laurent Tremblay and the distance to the end of the VIA station on Riverside is about, I think it's about 500 meters. So this is publicly available information. The Bill C-15, High-Speed Rail Network Act, spells out the process for expropriations. There's a neighborhood of mine in between these two spots, between Saint Laurent Tremblay and the VIA station. I'm getting all kinds of calls and queries. I can't respond to anything. And then I'm told that, well, nothing's going to be decided until after the municipal election. Really? So people are fearful of their homes. They have no idea, and I do not have the information to provide them. And there needs to be, the opacity of this has to stop. There needs to be more transparency. If you know that the station is going there, if you know what the route is, that information has to come to us sooner rather than later so that we can help our residents. I fully support the motion, and thanks to my colleagues for putting it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Curry?
Yeah, I just want to say I fully support this motion and thank the councillors for putting it forward. The reality is this is the type of motion that is proactive. You know, the reactive stuff is terrible. You know, I'm living the dream over here in Canada North, but you are being proactive with this motion and making it very clear what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable, that risks need to be mitigated and everything needs to be transparent. And that is great, a great message to send out ahead of time to all the residents who will be impacted. And, you know, we have residents that really want high-speed rail. We have residents whose lands will be impacted. And I think this motion helps both groups. And I would say that the people whose lands will be impacted potentially have more say, you know, because I would like to have a quick trip to Toronto. I don't think that's more important than someone whose farmland will be divided and they'll have no way to get over to the other field where that is a source of their income. So all of this, I think, is a very smart idea to put forward. All messages are smart and helpful to all of us, and in no way saying that we are against anything that they're trying to achieve nationwide. So I really appreciate this motion, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Plante.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this motion as well. I agree that it sort of balances the competing interests. I just want people just to be mindful. I have also a federal project in my ward, King Edward, the famous King Edward. And I believe the solution to King Edward is probably the most overstudied federal project in the history of federal studied projects. There's been so many studies on where the Eastern Crossing should go. I just want people to be mindful of that because, you know, we don't want to bog people down with over-consulting, over-studying. You know, we have been waiting for an answer for this for a long time. We have been steamrolled by very, very affluent communities. Lower Town, I would remind everyone, is one of the lowest income areas in the city. So I'm happy to support, but I just wanted to make my reservations clear that we do not want to spend, quote, King Edward time looking at this, studying this, consulting on this, because it will never come to fruition. Thank you.
Merci. Councillor Luloff.
Thanks, Mayor. I've had quite a few conversations about Alto over the last little while, as many of us have, especially the rural councillors and Councillor Carr, as she was just saying. And I think most people land in a really similar place. This idea sounds great. A fast train connecting major cities, less time traveling, potential economic benefits on the surface, and there's a lot to like. But once you get past the headline, people start asking questions. And I want to highlight these concerns, given that this motion deals specifically with consultation. And because people have a lot of questions about this project, I want to highlight what I've been hearing in hopes that somebody working on this project is listening to us today, because there has been no meaningful consultation. That's exactly what this motion is speaking to. The biggest thing that we're hearing about is cost, not because people are opposed to rail, but because they look around and they see so many other priorities competing for the same public dollars. I hear from residents that are sitting in traffic every day, frustrated by unreliable transit, families struggling with housing costs, people waiting for healthcare services. And they ask a pretty reasonable question. If we're talking about spending billions of dollars, is this the most important thing that we could be doing right now? Now, maybe it's because we live in Ottawa, and I think it's fair to say that we've developed a healthy habit of asking questions when somebody proposes a major rail project. Our local track record has been mixed, and I'll leave it at that. But I do think it reinforces the importance of getting the fundamentals right before we get too carried away by the promise. And when it comes to the use of public funds, consultation is fundamental. The other concern that I hear is that governments have a habit of talking about major infrastructure projects as though the benefits are guaranteed. They're not. The ridership projections are not guaranteed. The economic benefits are not guaranteed. The costs certainly are not guaranteed. Anyone who's followed a major public infrastructure project over the years knows that estimates have a tendency to change by a lot. I also think that we need to be careful not to dismiss the concerns of the communities that may be directly affected. And this is what this motion speaks to. It's their farmland, it's their property, it's their community. These concerns deserve to be heard and taken seriously. And at the end of the day, I don't think that the question before us is whether high-speed rail is a good idea in theory. The question is whether the people who may be affected by this project are being meaningfully engaged in this conversation. These are reasonable questions. They're the same questions that we ask of every major public investment. And before residents are asked to accept the impacts of a project of this scale, they deserve clear answers and a seat at the table. This is why I think we should all be supporting Councillor Kitz's motion. I don't see this as a motion against Alto. I see it as a motion in favor of better consultation, better collaboration, and better communication. If this project is going to move forward, then the communities that may be affected deserve to be heard early, often, and in a meaningful way. People should not feel like decisions are being made for them somewhere else and then handed down after the fact. Good projects are strengthened by public input. Good infrastructure is built with communities, not simply through them. And I think that's what this motion is trying to achieve. And I support it wholeheartedly, and I want to thank Councillor Kitz for bringing this forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Menard.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll just say very quickly, I
wholeheartedly support the addition of high-speed rail to our country, our city, and the connectivity that we all have where a huge percentage of our population lives within this corridor. It's been talked about for decades, and I'm glad the federal government is pursuing it. That said, I also support the motion that's on the table. Both can be true, and certainly we need that robust consultation, and for large projects, that is the case here. I really hope to see this project come to fruition, and that the benefits that are being touted to the economy, to people's quality of life, to the quicker movement of people, this is something that we do desperately need in this country, this vast country, and I'm very, very supportive of the project overall. I'd like to see this done in a good way, and that means consulting robustly with our residents. So I support both of these initiatives. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Menard. Councillor Brown?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to start off by thanking Councillor Kitts and Councillor Skalski for bringing this forward. Councillor Luloff spoke eloquently of some of the concerns that we have. Regardless of where you live in the rural area, this will impact you. The rural area is large, but the farming community is very small. And when we hear about farms that have the potential to be divided by major infrastructure, it is very concerning to family operators. I still hear in my ward residents who have concerns and complaints about the provincial 416 highway that divided their farms and the challenges that brought when they were trying to farm on both sides of the highway. And I'll remind my colleagues that when you have a traffic impact downtown, it might only be 1 or 2 blocks that you need to drive to get around it. In the rural area, when there is an issue on one of our roadways, it could be a 10-kilometer detour just to get back to where you are. I think that is one of the major concerns that our landowners have. How are they going to navigate around a high-speed rail line? How are they going to be able to continue to farm without negatively impacting their family businesses? How are we going to live in the rural community? Again, this is going to divide the rural area quite literally. And so I'm fully supportive of this motion. I think the councillors in the rural area have done a fantastic job in this term of council, Mr. Mayor, representing the concerns of rural Ottawa. You have been a great supporter of everything that we've tried to do with the Rural Summit, with improving services. And I think this issue is going to be something that defines us not only now, but in the next term. So fully supportive, and I hope council will be unanimous in their support of the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate the conversation today. I think it's a great way to bring together sort of both urban and rural priorities when it comes to consultation. And I think I very much respect the call to be unified in our approach to how we build in our rural areas. I think there are many projects that have been considered and discussed at this council table, not exclusively at the federal level, but also within our own transportation master plan that could have the risk of bisecting our rural communities like a ring road. And so I do hope that when we advance that conversation, we can all be unified in our approach of understanding what kind of negative impact such projects would have. So thank you very much for bringing that forward today.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Gower.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess I kind of had a similar thought to the last speaker. Let's bookmark this conversation when sometime in the next term or two we'll be talking about a ring road and talking about what's the economic benefit, what is the consultation and transparency, and especially what is the potential impact on landowners in rural communities. Thanks for the conversation today. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. Before you wrap up, Councillor Kitts, maybe I'll just make a couple of quick comments. First of all, I'm very happy to second the motion, and thank you for your collaboration on this. As Councillor Menard said, I think it is possible to be a supporter in principle of the Alto high-speed rail project and see the economic benefits of that and the benefits of connecting Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto more rapidly, and at the same time think that the project needs to be executed in a way that is respectful of rural residents whose property can effectively be divided by this route. And in fact, just to address a point that you raised, Councillor Devine, I heard an interview on Radio-Canada on Monday with Martin Imblot, the CEO of Alto, talking about the need to do exactly that, talking about the need to impact farmers and agricultural businesses as little as possible, mitigate, protect farms, find a route that will have the smallest possible impact on agricultural communities. So I don't think that Alto is going to be surprised by this motion. I'm sure they've heard similar feedback from other municipalities, residents, agricultural communities. We're not the only city talking about this. We're not the only municipality talking about it. They're going to hear this from everywhere along the route. They're not going to be surprised to hear this from us, and I think their response to it is, we're going to work with you to get this done. So I think no one should have any hesitation about supporting this motion or thinking that in some way it's inconsistent with support for the project in general, or that it's going to mean that Alto is not going to want to move forward because they don't like hearing from us on this. So very happy to work on this motion and to support it. And I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Kitts, to wrap up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I just wanted to actually thank everyone for their input and their comments. It sounds like we are mostly aligned, and I think that sends a very strong message to the residents who are being impacted. And those are the residents that quite literally can't sleep at night, not knowing if their homes, their land, or their livelihood will be sacrificed for this project, and they deserve to be meaningfully engaged. Imagine having that fear, having no additional information, and then seeing a drone fly over your property. So as councillors in the impacted area, we have been put in an impossible position because, of course, we want to be responsive to our communities. Of course, we want to answer their questions, but we are in the dark too. And it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us. So I want to again thank my colleague, Councillor Skalski, and to you, Mayor, for your support. This was a joint effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kitts. Is the motion carried? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Item 22.6 is the agreement between City Council and the Ottawa Public Library Board, a motion by Councillor Bradley. And Councillor Bradley, I understand you have a revised motion to introduce. Is that right?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll just read out the therefore be it clauses where there's some substantive changes as we worked on this with city staff and staff at the OPL. So therefore be it resolved that council direct city staff to continue to work collaboratively with OPL staff to develop a memorandum of understanding between the City of Ottawa and the Ottawa Public Library, outlining governance principles, roles and responsibilities, and the framework for shared services. And be it further resolved that the MOU and any supporting service level agreements seek to clarify service expectations, accountability, and operational processes. And be it further resolved that the staff consider provisions for regular review and renewal aligned with the terms of council and the OPL board to ensure it remains current and responsive to evolving needs. And be it further resolved that staff provide an update to council on the progress of the MOU and discussions between the city and OPL by December 2026 as part of the 2026 to 2030 governance review report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bradley. Is that carried? Commemorative naming for Tess Dent. Councillor Carr, did you want to say anything about that, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead and carry it. It's a commemorative naming for a longtime resident in my community who was loved by everyone.
Okay, is that carried? There are no motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure. Notices of motion, Councillor Luloff.
Thank you very much. Whereas the Invictus Games is an international adaptive sporting event founded in 2014 to support the recovery, rehabilitation, and resilience of wounded, injured, and ill active service members and veterans through the power of sport, whereas Canada successfully hosted the Invictus Games through separate and independently awarded host bids, including the Invictus Games Toronto in 2017 and the Invictus Games Vancouver and Whistler in 2025, demonstrating a national capacity to deliver world-class veterans-centered sporting events. And whereas other jurisdictions have advanced ongoing Invictus-related legacy models, including Invictus Germany and Invictus Australia, demonstrating how the Invictus concept can extend beyond a single international games to support continuing sport recovery, rehabilitation, and community connection for veterans and serving members. Whereas the City of Ottawa is home to one of the largest veteran populations in Canada and serves as a national centre for defence, remembrance, and military leadership, including the presence of the Department of National Defence Headquarters, Veterans Affairs Canada, and numerous veteran-serving organizations. Whereas Ottawa resident Elena Mundy, a Canadian Forces veteran and double gold medalist at the Invictus Games Dusseldorf 2023 in Germany, exemplifies the strength, resilience, and international excellence of Ottawa's veterans community. And whereas the City of Ottawa is advancing the Lansdowne 2.0 redevelopment, including modernized stadium incorporating enhanced accessibility, inclusive design features that may be suitable for adaptive sport competition and related events. And whereas Ottawa also benefits from existing major event infrastructure, including the Canadian Tire Centre, which may provide additional capacity, flexibility for hosting adaptive sport competitions, ceremonies, cultural programming, and related activities. Whereas hosting or establishing a major adaptive sport initiative in Ottawa could advance veteran wellness and recovery, strengthen ties with the Canadian Armed Forces, promote accessibility and inclusion, generate tourism and economic benefits, and reinforce Ottawa's national and international profile. And whereas further study is required to assess feasibility, governance structures, partnership opportunities, funding models, risk considerations, potential legacy outcomes, and Ottawa's competitive positioning before pursuing a formal bid, hub model, or event proposal. Therefore, be it resolved, the City Council direct that an Invictus Games steering committee be convened to undertake the feasibility study that will explore and assess opportunities for Ottawa to host or establish a major adaptive sporting initiative centered on wounded, injured, and ill veterans serving members. Be it further resolved that the steering committee be struck with the assistance of Ottawa Tourism and the Ottawa Veterans Task Force, with co-chairs to be determined, reflecting both destination development expertise and veteran-centered advocacy and coordination, and that the co-chairs operate closely with the Invictus Games Foundation to support strategic alignment with the Foundation's objectives, requirements, and expectations. Be it further resolved that the co-chairs be requested to draft the terms of reference for the steering committee, including a governance structure, stakeholder participation, reporting framework, decision-making processes, administrative support requirements, and any proposed subcommittee structure. Be it further resolved that the terms of reference explicitly include consideration of the intended impacts and outcomes for the City of Ottawa and its residents, veterans and their families, the Canadian Armed Forces community, and the local and regional economy. Be it further resolved that the Mayor, on behalf of City Council, be requested to send a letter of expression of intent to the Invictus Games Foundation advising Ottawa's interest in exploring future Invictus-related opportunities, including the option of a potential bid to host a future International Invictus Games and/or the option of establishing a Canadian Invictus Hub or similar legacy model in Ottawa, and that the Mayor's office coordinate with implicated provincial and federal ministers to support alignment and coordination across all three levels of government. Be it further resolved that the steering committee examine a broad range of options, including preparing a bid to host a future International Invictus Games, exploring the feasibility of establishing a Canadian Invictus Hub or similar legacy initiative, exploring the feasibility of hosting a Canadian adaptive sporting event modeled on the Invictus Games concept with expanded participation opportunities for Canadian competitors, assessing potential venues including Lansdowne 2.0, the Canadian Tire Centre, and other suitable facilities, evaluating funding options including municipal, provincial, federal, philanthropic, and private sector contributions, and identifying potential economic, social, accessibility, and veteran wellness impacts. And be it further resolved that the steering committee report back to City Council with a comprehensive feasibility study and recommendations, including governance options, funding considerations, risk analysis, projected impacts, differentiated host and/or hub vision, and proposed start state budget and recommended next steps. And I want to thank my colleague and fellow veteran, Councillor Hill, for seconding this motion, and also thank you for sitting through that with me so that we don't have to read it again at the next council meeting.
Thank you. I think that was longer than an Invictus Games. Thank you, Councillor Luloff. Councillor Menard?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor, and thanks to your office for working on this collaboratively. Whereas the City of Ottawa is experiencing sustained population growth and increasing demand for aquatic facilities with current capacity insufficient to meet community needs, competitive sport requirements, and public programming demand. And whereas the Parks and Recreation Facility Master Plan identifies the need for a new 50-meter aquatic facility to address both current deficiencies and future growth pressures. And whereas a 50-meter aquatic facility would increase Ottawa's tourism's ability to attract and host provincial, national, and international sporting events. And whereas Carleton University has demonstrated readiness to partner with the city through a significant financial contribution, provision of service land, and the ability to advance construction within an accelerated timeline. And whereas in July 2024, Council approved non-binding confidential negotiations that have led to mutually agreed upon high-level principles for the framework of a future agreement. And whereas the proposed joint aquatic sports center would represent a major city building investment supporting community recreation, high-performance sport, economic development, and sport tourism. And whereas the development of a memorandum of understanding is required to formalize shared principles, roles, and governance, and to enable the project to proceed with a more refined design and financial model, value engineering, and updated cost estimates. And whereas establishing a formal partnership framework through an MOU is necessary to demonstrate project readiness and alignment, which is a prerequisite for pursuing external funding opportunities, including federal and provincial infrastructure programs. And whereas the Government of Canada has identified community recreation infrastructure as a funding priority, including through programs such as the Build Community Strong Fund, for which this project may be eligible, and whereas advancing design and entering into the MOU will reduce financial, technical, and partnership risks by improving cost certainty, refining scope, and clarifying long-term responsibilities prior to any final commitment. And whereas the MOU is expressly non-binding and preserves full council authority over any future capital funding decisions, binding agreements as construction approvals, therefore be it resolved that council delegate authority to the General Manager, Recreation, Cultural, and Facility Services to finalize and execute an MOU with Carleton University for the development of a joint aquatic sports center to the satisfaction of the city solicitor. And be it further resolved that council directs staff to utilize the MOU framework to advance discussions with Carleton University and undertake the technical and financial due diligence required to refine project scope and costing, identify and mitigate financial and operational risks, and to develop a proposed partnership, governance, and operating model. And be it further resolved that any agreement enhance public access and time availability for this facility for local residents. And be it further resolved that council directs staff to actively pursue federal and provincial funding opportunities, as well as sponsorship and naming rights opportunities to offset capital costs and minimize the city's financial exposure. And be it further resolved that council confirms the execution of the MOU does not commit the city to construction, final capital funding, or binding agreements, and that all such decisions will be subject to future council approval. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Menard. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas on July 10th, 2024, City Council approved the commemorative naming policy, and whereas in keeping with its powers set out in the Municipal Act 2001, Council may assign a commemorative name by resolution notwithstanding the provisions included in the commemorative naming policy, and whereas Peter Clark selflessly served the Barrhaven West community as a school crossing guard, helping countless children and families travel safely to and from school to cross the street, whereas on March 23rd, 2026, Peter was struck while on duty near the intersection of Cedarview Road and Kennevale Drive, and later sadly died from his injuries. Whereas his death has been felt deeply by his family, friends, colleagues, residents of Barrhaven, and crossing guards across the city of Ottawa. Whereas school crossing guards perform an essential public service, often in difficult weather and traffic conditions, and their work reflects care, vigilance, and a daily commitment to the safety of children. Whereas Cobble Hill Park is located nearby the intersection that Peter worked and provides an appropriate public place to honor Mr. Clark's service and to recognize the important role of crossing guards throughout Ottawa. Whereas renaming the park Crossing Guard Park would create a lasting tribute not only to Peter Clark, but to all crossing guards who stand at the intersections each day to protect children, families, and neighborhoods. Whereas this proposed name would serve as a reminder to every resident, driver, cyclist, and pedestrian that community safety depends on respect, attention, and care for one another. Therefore, be it resolved that the park currently known as Cobble Hill Park, located at 200 Cobble Hill Drive, be commemoratively named Crossing Guard Park, and be it further resolved that all costs related to the production and installation of a new park sign be funded through the Ward 3 cash in lieu, community donations, or other eligible sources. Be it further resolved that an appropriate stand and plaque be installed displaying the name and include a brief history of Peter Clark and the important role that crossing guards play in the community. And be it further resolved that all costs related to the production and installation of the stand, plaque, and subsequent event be funded through donation or other eligible sources. And be it further resolved that all text for signage and commemorative plaques shall be bilingual and subject to approval by the General Manager of Recreation, Culture, and Facility Services. And be it further resolved that the City Clerk transmit Council's decision to Peter Clark's family, the Ottawa Safety Council, and nearby schools.
Thank you, Councillor Hill. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the iHeart Barrhaven Market is a semi-annual event organized by the Ottawa Farmers Market in partnership with locally crafted markets and the Barrhaven Business Improvement Area, the BIA, promoting the usual local farmers plus guest artisan and business vendors. Whereas the Autumn 2026 market is scheduled for the Sunday, the 20th of September 2026 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Nepean Woods Park and Ride, whereas vendors require 2 hours before and after the market for setup and tear down. And whereas the market has steadily grown in popularity, becoming one of Barrhaven's central and most look forward to regular events and increasing pressure on parking availability at the park and ride. And whereas potential additional guest vendor space was identified on the bus-only ramp connecting eastbound buses from Nepean Woods Station and eastbound Strandherd Drive, adjacent to the parking lot. Whereas within the proposed closure timeframe, trips on routes 70, 74, and 99 will need to be placed on a minor detour, which adds 60 to 90 seconds to trip time with no impact to bus stops, no modifications to stop assignments at Nepean Woods Station, and no impact to the turnaround loop for Route 80. And therefore be resolved that Council approve the closure of the bus-only ramp from Nepean Woods Station to Strandherd Drive on Sunday, the 20th of September 2026, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the iHeart Barrhaven Market, and be further resolved that the cost of pylons to demarcate the closed areas and an accessible temporary curb ramp be covered by the event organizers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your support on this notice of motion. Whereas the lands municipally known as 7000 Campo Drive, formerly the Canada Lakes Golf and Country Club, and referred to throughout this motion as the Canada Golf Lands and Green Space, comprise approximately 175 acres within the Canada Lakes community and were made subject to a 1981 agreement known as the 40% Agreement, requiring that 40% of the area be preserved as open space. And whereas the urban boundary was extended to allow this area to be developed, the community was promised a central park, one large connected network of green space for the whole community. And whereas the community was allowed under the agreement to use these lands as a winter park and has done so for more than 40 years, a winter park it now has lost, on top of never receiving the central park it was promised. And whereas the roads, water infrastructure, and school capacities in the area, along with the thousands of nearby new apartment units, were all planned on the understanding that this land would remain parkland and stormwater management for the area. And whereas hundreds of acres of nearby forest and green space were approved for housing development on the understanding that the Canada Golf Lands would become the community's permanent and protected park and green space. And whereas Council has already affirmed on January 28, 2026, that building homes or other development on these lands does not fit with the plan the broader Canada Lakes community was built around or the promises made to its residents. And the city has gone through the courts and exhausted its options to enforce the 40% agreement meant to protect these lands. And whereas the Ontario Land Tribunal has approved a draft plan of subdivision and municipal zoning for development on these lands, establishing a precedent that long-standing commitments to preserve parkland and green space can be overridden through litigation, a precedent every Ontario municipality should want to avoid. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, has written to the Attorney General of Ontario asking the province to review the Club Link decisions in Ottawa and ensure municipalities have the tools they need to protect open space. And whereas the province has stepped in before in similar circumstances, intervening in 2021 after the town of Oakville passed similar resolutions to preserve the Glen Abbey Golf Course, therefore be it resolved that the Mayor write to the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, requesting that the province of Ontario consider using the following tools. Number one, an order under Section 47 of the Planning Act issued by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to ensure the preservation of the Canada Golf Lands and green space as part of the 40% agreement, 40% green space, or two, special legislation to ensure the conservation of the Canada Golf Lands and green space as part of the 40% green space lands.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Motion to introduce bylaws. Councillor Lowe.
Que le règlement énuméré à l'ordre du jour sous le titre motion portant présentation de règlement 3 lectures soit lu et adopté.
That carried. Confirmation bylaw, Councillor Lowe.
That the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting of June 24th, 2026.
Is that carried? Inquiries, Councillor Carr.
Thanks. Can staff please provide the following information for each year of the current term of council? The number of flex stakes reported as damaged, broken, fallen, and missing through resident 311 service requests. Council offices are the reporting mechanisms. 2, the number of flex stakes that are discarded and are replaced due to damage. 3, if tracked, the most common causes of damage to a flex stake. 4, the annual cost associated with the repair and replacement of flex stakes.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Brockington.
Thank you. Members of council, on behalf of residents across the city, have raised concerns regarding the condition of road markings and painted lines at numerous intersections and along roadways. Many of these markings are significantly faded and in some locations no longer visible, which raises safety concerns for cyclists, pedestrians, and motorists. Would the General Manager of Public Works provide information on the following? How line painting and road marking work is prioritized and planned across the city. 2, the current service standards for road markings. 3, when residents can expect faded lines and markings to be refreshed. And 4, how residents can report locations where markings require attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brockington. Are there any other inquiries? Motion to adjourn. Councillor Lowe.
With gratitude to Councillor Luloff for seconding that the proceedings of the City Council meeting of June 24th, 2026 be adjourned.
Is that carried? Merci.
Good afternoon. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for joining us for today's media availability. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour le point de presse d'aujourd'hui. I will now invite each media agency in alphabetical order to ask their questions. You may ask one question with a follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. We'll start with Arthur White-Crummy, CBC Ottawa.
Hi, Arthur.
Hi, this will be for the mayor. At its board meeting Monday night, the Ottawa Police Service acknowledged that it's failed to address sexual violence, misconduct, harassment in its ranks, and that years of studies and recommendations have proven ineffective. I'm just wondering what your reaction is to all the reports that we've seen of misconduct and whether you think the force is capable of handling this problem.
It's shocking to read some of what's been reported about this, the behavior of some people. And the first thing I want to say is, in particular, the behavior towards women in the community. Women deserve to feel safe and feel that they're not being, their privacy is not being violated by members of the Ottawa Police Service. So it's very disappointing and shocking to read those stories. But I'm cautiously optimistic that the police service is confronting this. That Chief Stubbs is working hard to establish a better culture in the police service and deal with these systemic issues, and that the police board will be holding the senior leadership of the police service accountable for some solutions in the very near future.
Could I get that in French before I move on to my next question?
Alors, c'est choquant de,
well, I think it's shocking to read these articles, these reports. Ottawa residents, especially Ottawa women, deserve to feel safe. And to be free from harassment by police officers. I'm disappointed. It's shocking. But I'm optimistic that Chief Stubbs and the Ottawa Police Services Board fully understands the situation and will develop solutions in the near future.
On the high-speed rail motion, I know you said that it's possible, and several people said that it's possible to support the project and to also support this motion, but particularly the elements that demand mitigation measures on things like impact to agricultural land, connectivity. I think some of the supporters even talked about red lines like wildlife habitat. I'm wondering how this motion does anything but put roadblocks and obstacles in the way of a project, some of which seem incompatible with high-speed rail.
Anytime you're going to have a big infrastructure project, it's going to lead to impact. And I'm, as one of my colleagues said to me, I'm sure there were big discussions when the Queensway was built about roads that were being cut off. I live not far from the Queensway, and the street I live on comes to a dead end, and then it starts again on the other side of the Queensway, right? So homes were expropriated, roads were cut off. That's part of building big infrastructure. But I think what the motion is about is saying there has been a lot of concern and anxiety, particularly in rural communities and agricultural communities, farmers worried about their properties being divided in half and having to take a 10-kilometer detour to get from one part of their farm to another. And that's not acceptable. They deserve to be consulted. They deserve to hear answers as soon as possible. And they deserve whatever mitigation is possible to make sure that what could be a nation-building project does not end up dividing the community and impacting residents in such a negative way that the pain is more than the benefit. So, I've heard Martin Imblot, the CEO of Alto, speaking about this in recent days. I think he understands the concerns, and I think he is ready to respond to them. And I've heard him saying, We need to minimize the impact. We need to increase the mitigation, and we need to be responsive to the fears and anxieties of residents. So I don't think he'll be surprised by this motion, and I think Alto is prepared to act.
Thank you. We'll now go to Andy Pinsent, CFRA.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, I don't have like 12 questions today. Just one quick reaction. I know Council received the AG's report on new ways to bus, the audit that was tabled at Audit Committee last Friday. Just in general, what would your message be to riders who read the findings in that report about the access to reliable bus service?
As I've said many times, as an OC Transpo passenger with many OC Transpo passengers in my family, I understand the frustrations and concerns of residents. For many years now, they've not been getting the transit service that they want and deserve. The team at OC Transpo has been working hard to improve reliability, and we're starting to see the results of that. Our new general manager, Rick Laurier, agreed with the Auditor General's findings. They were consistent with what he's observed since he took on this job. He's working very hard to find solutions to exactly the issues that the Auditor General identified, and we're starting to see an improvement in reliability. There's a bunch of factors that have led to the situation we're in, and none of those issues is one that could be resolved overnight. It takes time to acquire new buses, more reliable buses, electric buses that are not going to be in the shop as often. It takes time to hire mechanics. It takes time to fix the axles on the trains. So all of these things are taking time, but they're all headed in the right direction. And we're starting to see real progress and the pieces coming together under new leadership at OC Transpo to finally give residents the transit service that they want and deserve. And I think we're a lot closer to that than we were a couple of years ago. And I know it's a tough ask to say to our residents and to OC Transpo passengers, please be patient. We've tested their patience over and over again, but we're getting there. We are almost there, and it is just around the corner under new leadership, and with all the pieces coming together, we're finally going to have the train service and the bus service that we should have in Ottawa.
And just one quick follow. Is there any regrets or considerations that you have looking back at the launch of New Ways to Bus? Do you see any room where yourself or council could have added more to the initiative to try to help with some of its launch issues that were outlined in the report? Things like scheduling available buses. Is there anything looking back that you would have regrets on or reservations about, or that you would do again?
Look, I think there are always lessons to be learned, and that's why we have an Auditor General, and that's why I support the Auditor General's work and support the findings. And again, they are consistent with what Rick Laurier observed and many of the conversations that we had even before the AG's report came out. As an elected official, it's not up to me to set the schedules. It's not up to me to decide on the routes. And I'm not a transit engineer. We rely on the professional staff at OC Transpo to bring forward plans. And Madame Emilcar brought forward a plan for New Ways to Bus, explained the rationale for it, laid out in great detail what she thought the benefits of the plan were, why it was necessary, why it was consistent with the opening of lines 2 and 4 of light rail. We rely on the professional staff at OC Transpo to do the detailed work. Of course, we ask tough questions, but it's the job of OC Transpo to set the schedules and decide on the routes, not the job of members of City Council. So there are always lessons to be learned. There's always more accountability that we can bring, but I have confidence now that we've got a great general manager in place who's sensitive to these concerns, and that we're also starting to see the pieces come together for a much more reliable service going forward.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to Leila Rock, CTV Ottawa.
Hi, Leah.
Hi. Not a ton, because great questions have already been asked, but I just wondered, on the note of OC Transpo, if you have a reaction to some of the reporting that's been out that thousands of students are going to be affected because OC Transpo is taking some buses off and switching to school buses. So in an effort to kind of improve reliability, some students are going to be affected, and they're prime OC Transpo passengers. So Do you have a reaction to that?
Are you talking about the buses that we were providing to the school board?
No. So OC Transpo is adjusting some routes for the fall, and that's going to, some 36,000 students, 3,600 students are going to be moved from OC Transpo buses to school buses in the fall. And it's just kind of a way to, I don't know if you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't, you know, again, I leave those decisions to OC Transpo and the team at the city. I'll let Wendy maybe speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I'm sure that Rick can provide some additional information on this as well. And I think he's speaking to media a little bit later. This was a decision, and I'm going to say a conversation that we came to in consultation with the school boards. And I think what's important is the service is still going to be there. It's just going to be a different bus, right? That's going to be transporting children to school. So the service is there. It's just a yellow bus instead of an OC bus.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for being patient. Sorry, I didn't want to catch you off guard there for that. How are discussions going with the province for uploading the LRT and Highway 174? Are discussions still happening? Any progress on that?
Yeah, the discussions are continuing, and I don't have any big updates to provide, but the conversations have continued. As you know, we signed an agreement with the provincial transportation minister not that long ago, 6-8 weeks ago, to move those discussions forward. It's going to be great to have Rick Leary as part of those conversations. He has lots of experience with uploads. He has great relationships with the team at Metrolinx, so that's going to help. The 174, is a lot closer. It's further along the road because the commitment was made a year earlier. So, no big updates to provide, but the work is continuing.
Thank you. Next up, Olivia Bilovich, Ottawa Citizen.
Hello.
Hi,
welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. So the Ottawa Police Services just this morning announced that they were expanding the pilot program of their body-worn cameras, and that's a partnership with Axon. In that $27 million deal, there is an AI-forward component of Axon. I was wondering, amongst the concerns of surveillance, AI having biases, how is that going to affect Ottawa residents?
Yeah, I think in terms of the specifics of that, I think you could ask the police service directly for their comment on it. At a high level, we are always trying to strike a balance between protecting residents' privacy, but at the same time having more information available. And I think we've seen in a number of jurisdictions, body-worn cameras have been tested and implemented, and they help to provide a higher level of accountability and more evidence when events take place in the community that the police are involved in. So it's become almost a standard for policing in most countries, in most cities in North America. So we're hardly the first to be doing this. Of course, we always need to manage the data carefully, protect residents' privacy, and when you layer AI onto something like that, it adds another dimension of complexity and risk. But on the whole, I think that body-worn cameras are a benefit, and they add a level of accountability for police officers, and they add more data and evidence that can be used in investigations. So, the police service will have to make sure that the data is being managed properly, and that whatever AI tools are deployed are done in a way that's consistent with residents' expectations.
I want to ask you about the transition from heart hubs from supervised consumption sites. Now, the only two heart hubs are very far. The closest one's a 50-minute walk from the former supervised injection site. I want to ask about how, people at their lowest in the depths of addiction are reasonably going to be able to get there.
It's a great question, and I'll say, as I've said before, that I support the creation of heart hubs and having more treatment options available and more resources available to people who are seeking treatment, but they are not a perfect solution, and they do not completely replace what was happening at the supervised consumption sites. And not everybody is ready for treatment or is seeking treatment. And there are going to be impacts from no longer having the supervised consumption sites in our community. So I know that the great people who work in the social services sector in our city, people at community health centers, are working hard to mitigate the impacts of these changes. They do amazing work, and it's challenging because it feels like every time they're moving forward, there's another change that happens that they have to adapt to. But I'm hopeful that people are going to use the heart hubs and seek treatment, but I think we have to acknowledge not everybody's in a position to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks. And finally, we have Michael McBean, Ottawa Sun.
Ottawa Sun, but you're wearing an Ottawa Citizen T-shirt.
Kind of all part of the same brand, yeah.
I know. And I worked at the Ottawa Citizen for years, and I never got a T-shirt.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we have to get you a T-shirt one day. But I guess as a question, just mayoral candidate Neil Servanamutu has put out a video yesterday saying that there's a list that the city has of 100 arenas and recreational facilities that it plans to close within the next decade. And he's wanting you to release this list to the public. And I know there's a councillor inquiry about this, but can you talk a little bit more about that and what you're doing to address aging recreational facilities in the city?
First of all, it's completely false. We're not closing any recreational facilities. That's not going to happen. We're investing in infrastructure. We increased our investment in infrastructure this term of council by 40%. We have plans to increase it even more in the next term of council, subject to the decisions of the new group of people who are elected in October. I will not allow any recreation centers or community centers or sports facilities to be closed. That's not our plan. Our plan is to invest in recreation centers and community spaces and to have more of them and to refurbish the existing ones. So anyone who's saying that we're going to close rec centers is misleading the public. We're going to continue to invest, and we're going to find ways to invest to have even better recreation facilities in the future. We're going to refurbish existing facilities. We might, in some cases, replace existing facilities with brand new facilities that are even better than the aging facilities. But we're not closing anything down without replacing it with something better. We're going to have much more recreation infrastructure in the years to come than we do today, and that's the plan.
Okay. Shifting gears a little bit, I was working on a story yesterday about a ring road in Ottawa. I know it's kind of like an age-old debate in politics here, but I know Tim Tierney was saying that he's had conversations with the transportation minister about this, and that they're looking into the feasibility of this at the provincial level. I know this has been talked about, but heading into the municipal election this fall, is this something that you'd like to see brought up? Is this something that you'd like to see prioritized for the city? How are your talks with the province going?
I hear often from residents about their concerns on traffic. The population of Ottawa is growing, and as the population grows, we need to provide more solutions for people to get around. That includes public transit, it includes more roads, it includes expanding our existing roads. So, I'll be talking during the campaign about the solutions that we need in order to serve a growing population and allow people to get around the community smoothly. It is a source of frustration for residents, and that we need a multitude of solutions, not just public transit, not just bike lanes, but we need to expand our roads and build more roads. In principle, I'm open to the idea of a ring road if it can help to alleviate some of the pressures we have throughout the city as one solution. It's not the only solution. We also need to build more public transit. We also need to look at other roads like the Airport Parkway, Brian Coburn, other roads that maybe need to be expanded. But a ring road could be part of the solution, and I'm prepared to work with the province to explore it and see what the benefits might be.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes today's media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse d'aujourd'hui.